Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Today's guest is known for his awesome Send It style of riding. He is a breath of fresh air for 2020 BMX in my mind. Over the last few years, we have seen him involved with companies like BoneDeth, GT, and Profile Racing, three very different but beloved companies in BMX. When he isn't doing Superman seat grabs over a burning fire, he is crowd surfing at Fise in nothing but a cheetah print thong. Ratty Maty, everyone.
Hello. Thank you so much, man. Honored to be here.
We are honored to have you. So thank you for doing this. This is going to be really fun. So let's go way back to when you first started riding. How did you first get started?
Oh, man. I mean, in terms of rolling around on a bicycle, I was actually doing that before I could walk. So bikes have been in my life from the beginning. I would say birth, but I didn't understand what bikes were when I was young. My mom got me into riding bikes. She used to race downhill mountain bikes. And, I used to go ride the trails with her, single track, and try to keep up with mom. And she used to whoop my ass until I was about 14. And I started really, passing her and, started seeing I was carving up on embankments and, jumping over logs. And one of the dudes that she was hanging out with at the bike shop that we would frequent, he ended up pushing me a little GT dyno BMX. And at first I thought it was a silly little bike. I mean, I'm used to mountain bikes, so it was a whole nother world for me. But I couldn't deny how great it felt to grab those handlebars. And I was hooked. And I was 14 years old. And then it just went from there. And I started meeting friends that had dirt jumps in their backyard, down the street from where I lived. And it just, I haven't stopped.
Hell yeah, man. That's so cool that your first bike, BMX bike, was a GT, considering that you actually ride for GT now.
It's so insane how full circle that came. That, oh, man. Just having the conversation with Jeff Z and then knowing the full circle of having it as a child and now, man, it's an unbelievable connection. And it really makes me feel that GT has been there for a very, very long amount of time. And it used to be kind of a joke when we were younger. It used to be more of a joke. And I just really love the trajectory of brands that stick around and brands that are willing to morph and change with the times. So very grateful to be hooked up.
Yeah, GT actually has really stepped their game up the last few years. About 10 years ago, if you had a GT, people would kind of equate that to getting it from a big box store, right? And now it's
Yep.
GT makes some really good stuff. They have some amazing riders like yourself, Brian Chikinski, and just the whole GT team. Mad Mike, dude, that guy is nuts. So it's really cool to see that GT is really pushing it.
It's amazing the versatility that comes with GT now, because it used to be, like you said, more of a box set. When I thought about GT when I was younger, it was the guys who were just doing crazy vert tricks, and it wasn't a very different squad. The squad was very consistent, at least in my mind. I maybe didn't have that much exposure, but now you see crazy street riders with unbelievable control. And you're still seeing vert, you're still seeing dirt. They have such a good group and mix of riders that, I mean, you can't go wrong with anybody on that team.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Those guys are all so good. And like you were saying, they have such a versatile team that is, travels through not just BMX. They have an amazing mountain bike team, everything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's, way to keep it way more than just BMX specific, because you're very true. You go onto the GT Instagram and you see guys that are ripping it on mountain bikes all over the world, and it's completely mind blowing and totally different than what we're doing on BMX.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, to go back there when, you first really got into riding BMX, who were some of the people that you really looked up to? Were they more locals, or was it, pros, anything like that?
Well, specifically, it was this guy named Dave Royce, and let's see, he lived about 20 seconds down the street from where I live. He was the older guy on the block who rode, and he had like pretty big dirt jumps. back in those days, like a 6-foot double was like huge to us. And so the kids who were my age, we would all ride like crappy little bumps that weren't even manicured, but we knew about this guy's house down the street. And he ended up kind of being like a big brother to me for trails and for riding. And I started learning with them. They all grew up racing, and I never raced. So I had to learn how to move like over the rollers with style and with grace and be able to pump and all this stuff. And I learned that through those guys. So I would say, like, without a doubt, Dave Royce was my main influence into riding trails. And then all the guys that were connected and around him, everyone just started feeding off each other.
Hell yeah, man. I love when, locals really kind of feed off of each other. I think that's like just such a rad way to look at BMX, right? And what's funny is that a lot of the pros that I've had on here, it's not, other pros that they looked up to when they were younger, like very few of them, but yeah, it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, it was wonderful because I was about 4 years, maybe 5 years younger than the average person of their group. And so the kids who I hung out with, we were like little Cottonwood kids they had like the little Seawood kids, our little bike group. But the older guys called themselves the White Oak Skulls because the trails were on White Oak Drive. And it was always like, oh man, you go ride the Wasp trails, the White Oak Skull trails. And I mean, I've always wanted to just send it anyways. So yeah, to see going to the White Oak Skull trails, like as far as the group that was my age, we all were pushing it and like having fun, but I would say that there was maybe me and like one other dude in our small group that really didn't care, and they would like go faster at jumps and just want to try bigger stuff. And so I was one of the first kids to start riding like the bigger sets at those jumps, and it just got to the point where I got surprised with a terrible one frame when I was about 17, I think, a T1 barcode. And my buddy Dave worked at the local bike shop, and I was going in there to get my wheel fixed. And I show up, and he was like, hey, why don't you come back here and check out this bike? And he pulls out this brand new T1 barcode, maroon, like fucking beautiful bike. And I'm like, damn, that bike is amazing. Whose bike is that? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's like this kid who came in. He's like, nah, dude, it's yours. Happy birthday. Like, you got a new bike. And I'm like, what? And he told me I have to hit the supercharger set, which was the biggest set of his trails. And he's like, you have to hit that by the weekend if you want this bike. And so I had to hit a 28-foot long low. And I was like 17, like trying to do that shit. So it was incredible. Like the level of confidence that they had in their friends of what they were capable of, it was really nice.
You're riding and the way that you are able to send stuff, right? Like it clearly comes from a history of riding trails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Like obviously with these jumps, they're so massive. When you're 17, it's probably one of the scariest things when you're first kind of starting out, but you were already going so far with them. And obviously you growing up in California, right? Like there is quite a lot of like action sports there. I feel like it's such a accepted thing.
So California is a pretty big state. So actually where I grew up was a little town called Cottonwood, and extreme sports, action sports, they were not common. We were the rebels. We were the ostracized group. Like we were not the in crowd. And I grew up doing normal sports. Like I was a jock, and so that was what I did. I played soccer, I played baseball, I played basketball, and then I found BMX. And that was right around the time that I was 14, and I found those friends. And it was basically like coming to practice for basketball, and we would have cut up and bloody shins, and our coach would be like, man, what are you guys doing at home outside of practice? Like, why are you guys getting all beat up and limping, and like, what is this? And my buddy Garrett at the time, we would be like, oh my God, dude, we built this jump. We put like pieces of wood on top of this dirt, and we would jump this, and it was so much fun. And he told us, like, we need to stop that. Like, you guys need to pay attention. We need to have a good season. This is fucking 8th grade, And I knew right then that that's not the type of motivation that you really need to instill in a child. Like this is a kid telling you something that they're excited about and that they're pushing to their limits and they're having fun. And yeah, they're getting hurt and it's maybe going to impede your season a little bit because they're going to limp on the field. But that's something that you should encourage them to do outside of the court, you know? And we didn't have that acceptance to ride bikes. And so we just became closer and closer and closer and started wearing tighter and tighter pants and rebelling super hard. So we just needed to be like, all right, you guys want to shoot baskets and have fun? Like, we're going to go jump off of this quarter pipe and see how far we can push the landing back.
Damn, that's wild, man. Especially to hear about, how they were kind of really not about it, not about BMX, not about action sports or any of that stuff. Like, I grew up in a small town, so very similar thing, but just to hear how you guys kind of went against that is really cool. I think that that's like such a big part of BMX, as well as skateboarding. Like that is kind of where skateboarding was birthed, right? Like nobody liked it. And then all these people were kind of one small community.
Yeah. And we didn't have a local skate park in terms of in our own town in Cottonwood. The closest one we had was in Reading. And to this day, mark my words, Reading Skate Park is my all-time favorite skate park. There is no vert, and there are horrible quarter pipe lips. Everything is like a banked, rolled tranny with shitty coping, but it's like trails. It's like cement trails. And so, we would ride our bikes from Cottonwood. It would take us like an hour, and we would ride our bikes all the way into Reading, which is about a 20-minute drive. And we'd ride our bikes there just to go to the skate park, and then we'd ride our bikes home. It was just we had trails, but not everyone in my group was riding those trails. So I was the kid that started like building a bike ramp in his backyard because it wasn't accepted. Like we got made fun of at school for riding bikes and not playing sports. So it was a little challenging at times because people didn't understand it. But the things that they didn't understand were the things that bonded us like crazy. Like we started partying super hard, building garage ramps in friends' houses. And it was like these kids who were making fun of us outside in the real world, they have no idea how insane this is becoming for us and how incredibly intoxicating it is. And we just got hooked to it.
Hell yeah, man. That's so rad. Honestly, just to see how into it you guys got is really cool, and I think that that's like especially sick because you're still riding. Is your buddy that you were talking about earlier still riding?
So I don't think so. He still shoots photos. We actually don't have the best communication anymore. I'm not going to hold anything back. I was a pile of shit kid and everyone does stupid things. But like when I left at 18, my hometown, and I got pretty made fun of from everybody there. And I realized that the connections that I thought that we had, they weren't very strong. And they were willing to kind of break them up because I wanted to go travel. I wanted to go see the country. I went and forced myself to go be homeless and travel all over the country and live on the East Coast and have like random jobs. Like I needed to put myself in a situation that was different, and they definitely didn't appreciate that. And I don't hold any grudges for them for doing that because it was the pathway that I needed to be on, and it made it to where when I came home, I appreciated the environment that we grew up in, but I feel bad for those kids because, we're in our 30s now and a few of them still ride, but they're also doing a lot of sniffing and doing a lot of drinking. And that is some stuff that doesn't really fall into my lifestyle, and you have to get yourself away from that type of stuff when you're in such a small town because it just pulls you down and hurts you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm kind of in a similar situation at the moment where, I feel like I'm kind of losing a lot of friends just by focusing so much on what I'm doing and what I'm about. But I'm kind of at that point where I'm 24 and I really want to push forward with what I'm doing and focus on me right now because, in 6 years, it comes up fast, I'll be 30. I want to have my life not figured out, but I want to know what I'm doing and I want to be somewhat successful with what I do. And that's kind of, I don't know, same thing. I like to go out and travel and do these like different videos and whatnot. And I've got a whole plan kind of laid out. And, yeah, I guess, they're not into it, which is fine. That's up to them, I'm really hearing your story there is like pretty inspiring, especially with the fact that, you just went and did it. Like that's something that I think a lot of people need to do. Like if they have something in mind and they want to try it, just fucking do it, right?
Yeah. And like, I'm not going to tell you it was enjoyable every moment of the time that I was sleeping in a parking garage with an alarm clock on a curb to wake up and go to my job. Like it wasn't the most enjoyable moment in my life, but it was just one of those things that you just had to do because you needed to feel, I needed to, I didn't grow up with money and I didn't grow up super poor or rich or anything. I was like perfect middle class, didn't really have to struggle. Everything kind of came to me and I didn't really know who I was. And so I needed to put myself into some struggling situations to really find out what type of character I had, because no one was really there to challenge your character. You could just stay in your hometown, be complacent with the people the day-to-day, blah, blah, blah. But like, I grew up in a small, predominantly white and Christian area. I want to go to a black area and a Mexican area, and I want to go to places that have culture that is not what I grew up with. And I want to be forced to interact with them and not have like interesting, strange segregation. And, when you start to grow up, you start to find values. Well, hopefully you find things that you value. And if you realize that some of the people who are in your life, they're not aligning with those, it's not a bad thing, and sometimes you can have vulnerable conversations with them and just say, hey, like, it kind of looks like we're going different paths and all this stuff. Like, I wish you the best, but honestly, I think I need to focus really heavily on this. And if for some reason our friendship falls away, I want you to know that I love the time that we spent together, but it might just mean that it ran its course, And I think there are a lot of people, not in just friendships, but in relationships. I'm a product of a broken home. My parents broke up when I was 7, and people need to identify when things run their course and not just stick around and just deal with it and like settle, because that's what creates stagnicity and that's what creates mold. And that will grow inside of you, and it will eventually overtake you when it's too big, and it'll hurt you.
Absolutely, man. Those are some really wise words, and I think everybody that's listening needs to really pay attention. And, if you are having a hard time in a friendship, relationship, maybe it's with your parents or something like that, like, do what you got to do, because it is well worth it. My life changed forever. When I was 13, I went to a boarding school to get away from the family that I was living with. And it was one of those things that I was lucky enough to go. However, I did not want to be there anymore. I wanted to be somewhere else and away from these people because it just wasn't for me. And that was by far the best decision I've ever made. And since then, I'm very close with my mom now. And it's just one of those things that we know that we both love each other, but I can't live with her. I need to live with my dad or on my own, like now. And I think that was probably the best decision I ever made.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure that it was not easy at the beginning. It probably didn't feel 100% right to do that, but it probably felt more than 50%. And there was a little bit of you that was like, this is kind of hurting and I feel vulnerable and I feel scared, but it actually feels a little more correct. And when you start assessing what feels better for you, you can really start painting a nice picture of what you want to surround yourself with. And, people are always saying like, oh, quarantine really showed like my real friendships and like who really gives a shit about me and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, this is a great time to kind of evaluate who's caring, but also just look at the life pre-quarantine and after, we're still kind of in quarantine, but it just really makes you pay attention to who you even want to invest your time in, And one of the things that I'm super grateful for are older riders who I looked up to. Now that I live in San Diego, I've been here almost going on 6 years. And moving here from a small town, like, completely blew my mind, especially for the BMX scene that's down here. But I've always had a weird relationship with my dad, and I never really had a very good father figure. Like, he was basically just a sperm donor, and we have zero interactions now, and he doesn't know who I am. And so I attach myself to an older, like, male crowd who gives me good vibes and all this stuff. And then you meet people like Gary Young, and you realize, well, Gary's only a couple years older than me, but he's a dad, you know, and he has such a fatherly vibe that, like, I soak it up being around him. And I love being around positive male influences, because the males that I grew up with, dude, we're all crazy motherfuckers, and, like, we'll burn you in a second just to get a laugh. You know, that's the kind of shit that I grew up with. So it's good to learn the people that actually have your back, you know, and not even just quarantine stuff, but you'll see it, you know. Like, I did that silly thong run in France, and, like, the very first time I did that, I didn't have Wi-Fi until I got back to the hotel, and went back to the hotel, my phone started just going nuts, and everyone who supports me, they were sending me screenshots telling me it was on a live feed. Like, I had no idea that was a qualification run. That was just me being like, well, there's like 5,000 people in attendance here, let's give them a show. I had no clue that it was going to be broadcast, or Daryl now was going to trip over his words while I'm, like, dangling my junk in the air, and, like, it was just insane. But, like, the overwhelming positive response that I got from the people that I respect was perfect. And then when I got home, I heard all of the other sides of it. My friends who were giving me all the positive stuff, they were like, yeah, but, you know, so and so was like, oh, that's so gay that he did that, and, like, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, you know, those are just people that are going to be haters, and you're going to have haters no matter what. They're going to stay there, and use it as fuel, you know, because at least they're talking about you, even if you got your junk flopping around.
We were talking there about, you know, your run at Fise, which was kind of super infamous. You know, a lot of people, I think, got their first taste of Ratty Maty back at Fise with that. So, yeah, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how that kind of came into your head there?
All right, so it may come as a shock to some, that thong for months before. That wasn't something that I was planning on really doing. I met a French dude named Thomas, who he came out to San Diego with a couple other riders, profile mini hub, like with the high flange. And I'm like, yeah, like, dude, most people wouldn't have been able to identify that. Like, that's crazy. And we connected immediately. And he told me I needed to come to France. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But he was only here for like a week after that. But we hung out every single day. And at the end of it, he was like, look, man, he like grabbed me. He was like, hey, you need to come to France. And I'm like, oh, okay, shit. And I did. I didn't have much money at the time, and I just spent the last of it. I had about $500 left in the bank account. I spent the last of it on a plane ticket and went over there. He told me, don't worry about on the ground. And I'm like, whatever, man, I'm used to that. So we went over there, and he didn't really tell me anything about his connection with Fise, but he just said, like, you need to ride at Fise. And I'm like, whatever, like, I don't know. It's a different level, you know? And he's like, trust me, you need to be here. So I entered in the Spine Mini contest, and they had qualifications, and there was a grip of people, probably around like 5,000 people in the audience just for this qualification run. And, you know, I'm really competitive. So, but I'm also old enough now where I know my place, and like, I'm not doing double whips in this run. I'm not going to be doing it myself. So I really wanted to give it my all. And the first run, I gave it pretty good. Like, I wanted to have the style that I possess, and like, I wanted to do my stuff, and had the leather vest and all that shit, you know, and it was super fun. I had a great time, and the reaction was amazing. But I told Thomas, I said, hey, I'm not going to be able to win this, but I'm going to leave an impression. So I need to do something. And I found out that he was the MC. So this was like perfect connection. He told me he's going to fire up the crowd. I told him, yo, dude, I'm going to drop my pants and ride in a thong. And he's like, I fucking love you. Let's do this. And I dropped my pants and started riding. Well, actually, if anybody who was there saw the very beginning, I was getting called to drop in. I wasn't quite ready. And so I already had the thong on because I knew I was going to do this, you know. And I went to pull my shorts down, and like everything came down. So I was actually butt naked for a quick moment on the deck. And no one saw it. So that was, that was good. Maybe a few people on the deck. I bet you Ryan Gutler saw that. He had his camera up there asking me if I was going to get naked. And I was like, no. I'm just going to wear a thong. But that was just something where, you know, I know my skill level, and my skill level was not going to be top of the podium in terms of athletic ability and what the judges want to see. But I wanted to give a show. Like, I love entertaining and laugh. And so it's like, let's go out there in a leopard banana hammock and have fun. And it completely changed the course of my life because of it. It's crazy as that is to say.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the clips that I think everybody got their first taste of you with, and to hear the backstory on it is really cool, and especially that, like, you know, you went into it knowing that the type of rider that wins Fise is not the way that you ride, and that's okay. Like, really, you went there for the experience.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, as I was saying, you know, the way that you ride and everything, it's pretty clear that unfortunately you wouldn't be able to take the win, but you went in there with a good mental attitude and you just wanted to have fun, and you accomplished that. So you're a winner there.
Yeah, man, that was the main thing. Not gonna lie, it was probably top 3 greatest feelings of my life when I dropped in and heard everyone cheering. And because over in European areas, man, they are way more acceptable of guys in tiny bikinis, you know, and it was just one of those things where, like, I don't wear a thong in my spare time. Like, it's just like a shock value thing. You know, I couldn't help but watch Party Boy on Jackass and be like, dude, this guy is incredible. The level of confidence that this guy has just being a silly goofball is the greatest. And the kids that I said that I grew up with, we were all confident goofballs. And it was always like, who could one up the next person for the bigger laugh, you know? And doing that scared the shit out of me after I was done. But in the moment, that was exactly what I needed to do. And it felt so good to have that positive response. And when I got off the ramp, I mean, people surrounded me. I'm talking like young kids and their parents wanted photos with me. Obviously, I pulled my pants up. I didn't have the thong out during the photos, but people were so in love with that, like, essence of it. And I wasn't really prepared for that, because I'm someone who likes to do something shocking, and then I want to retreat into a hole and hide and cover my eyes and not see it. And that was when I went back to the hotel room. After I did that, I was like, oh my God, I just my balls and my dick in front of everyone on this. Like, this is insane. What am I doing? And I ran back into the hotel room, and my phone got Wi-Fi because I didn't have service over there. So I started getting all of these messages from my friends back in San Diego, from some of the people who I just recently met out in France. And they were just like, oh my God, I fucking love you. Like, that was insane. I can't believe you did it. You were on live TV. Like, it was a live broadcast. And I'm like, oh my God, what? I didn't know it was a live broadcast. Screenshots, and like, you could see how many people were tuning in and watching it. I started getting really nervous. Like, oh my God, what did I just do? And it hit me like, get off of your phone. You just had a whole audience in the palm of your hands, and they loved it. Get the fuck off of your phone, go back outside and go be in that again. And there were literally people waiting for me outside of the hotel room, and they welcomed me with photos and high fives and hugs. And like, unfortunately, when you drop your pants and wear your underwear out in a crowd and people want to take a photo with you and you have your clothes on, people started to like grab at my pants and try to like rip my pants off and take off my clothes and stuff. And I was like, hey, like, you know, they view you as only this party guy all the time. So that was like a little bit of a bummer, but you know, it's all good. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I just rolled with it, and it was so wonderful, man. I still get embarrassed thinking about it, but I don't regret anything in my life. And it was wonderful.
Hell yeah, man. That's such a great story. I love that, you know, you went back to the hotel, right? And you didn't even realize that it was filmed or anything, which is awesome. And that just shows that you didn't do it for the exposure, right? Or like for the quote unquote clout. You didn't do it for any of that. You did it for the fact that you wanted to have a fun day, and you accomplished that.
Yeah. I mean, the guy, Thomas, who essentially, hopefully he doesn't get upset with this, but like when he told me like, hey, I'm going to cover you on food, like what he meant by that was like he's going to go into the supermarkets and steal food and shove it down his pants and in his jackets. And when he comes out, he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't buy you any food. And then he pulls out a bunch of cheese and meat from his pants, you know, not that kind of meat, but he's like providing me food and putting his life on the line, essentially stealing shit for me. And I'm very attracted to wild people, mainly because the experiences are just really unlike anything else you're going to find with someone who's more of like the normal wavelength. And the stories that you have to tell afterwards are always better than any normal bullshit story. And so this guy and he drove me like an hour out of the way to go ride these amazing like vert wall over vert tunnel things that were only in this one spot in France. And he drove me out there just to go because he knew he knew I loved Fufanoos. And so being with his like artistic mind, like it was just like, let's go have fun and let's just do the craziest shit that we can while we're here. And so when he heard that I wanted to do this, he knew for a fact exactly what this type of event needs. It needs someone who doesn't take this very seriously, but who takes having fun seriously. And that is something that I didn't realize that my life kind of cultivated was I take having a good time very seriously. And I need to let other people know that you need to have fun. And if you're not smiling and you're not enjoying yourself, I don't care how fucking banging that clip is. I can tell by the vibe in your clip if you actually had a good time. And everyone posting all their like fantastic stuff, you can see by their energy in there if it was a stressful moment for them or if they were actually enjoying it. And so to bring that made the pressure that I had on myself to perform well, it made it go away. And it felt perfect. It felt like that was exactly what needed to happen. And man, the president of Fise, he came up to me at the last night. They have like a big party for everybody, all the volunteers, all the riders, everyone who's involved in Fise. And he came up to me and he shook my hand and he told me thank you, and that I changed the whole vibe of the week. He was like, you just completely changed it, and we love you for that. And I wore a thong, you know, like on American television, I would have been tackled by police if I was at X Games. Like that would have never happened.
Yeah, I love that, man. It's so true. You know, you did actually help change the vibe with that contest. And that is something that I've noticed just from watching Fise, right? Is that it's very, very, I don't know. It's like a lot of pros who are there to win, you know, and especially with
of course.
It being part of the UCI now, right? Like with the UCI and everything, people are not trying to just win. They want to go to the Olympics, and this is their ticket in. So, yeah, to see you go in there and have some fun with it is super refreshing.
Man, it was so crazy during the practice. There were about 60 of us on that mini ramp deck, and I was in the very back, because the mini ramp sessions that I've been a part of, everyone takes their turn. You let the dude ride. You give him plenty of room to do deck tricks. And then once he's done, you look at him and you're like, damn, that was pretty rad. You give him a little fist bump, you know, and then you drop in. These guys were like sharks around open water feeding season. Like it was unbelievable, man. You would come up and do a foot jam, and if you looked like you were leaning to fall back onto the deck, someone would drop in immediately. And shout out to Brian Fox. I never had met that dude before that time. And he saw that I was like looking at the ramp, and he was like, Maty, have you dropped in yet? And I was like, nah, dude, it's all good. And he's like, no, everybody fucking stop. Maty needs to go. And I took one on that ramp because of Brian Fox, because I wanted to not like tell everyone, like, hey, can I go? And it was just like feeding season there, man. And so that hyped up the nerves, you know. And these guys are all incredible athletes. Like, don't get me wrong. The riding that they do, it's acrobatic and it's unbelievable. Like to see 5 double whips in one run, that's mind blowing, you know? So it was needed to balance that out, because you have the level of tricks are way up here, but where's the level of like core BMX entertainment and fun? Like we didn't light anything on fire. people weren't shooting off bottle rockets. Like, where is that to balance out this level of amazing riding? And I think you need it. So I had to pull out the man thong.
I'm totally going to clip that. That's going on Instagram. That is like so perfect though.
Perfect.
Dude, I can completely understand where you're coming from. Like that is such a very important part of BMX and our history, right? Is the whole fact of like, it's supposed to be 50% just do whatever and have fun with it, right? And, I do have a lot of respect for those dudes that are able to fucking like take this as a profession, and they are able to, like you said, do 5 double whips in one run. That is amazing because they have put so much dedication into getting that trick. And I know that, on the show before I have mentioned, I like to see more variety than just whip bar kids and whatnot, but those dudes still deserve some respect. It's just one of those things that unfortunately
100%.
is overdone. But yeah, dude, that Fise story is so good. That's so awesome to hear, honestly.
I appreciate that. From earlier, I'm not sure if the video cut out, so I'll go back and just explain this small little bit first. But we were talking about having a even amount of reciprocating energy with people who are aligned with you. And so when I went back to the hotel, and my Wi-Fi started going off, and I started getting all these positive messages from all of my friends in San Diego and from all over the state. It was very, very overwhelming in a good way. And they were just like, dude, I fucking love you. Like, I can't believe you did that. It's so great. But then when I came back home and I was face to face with a couple of these guys, they ended up telling me, they were like, hey, so, while we were watching this, like I was with so-and-so. I'm like, I'm not going to name drop because I'm not going to gossip. And they would tell me, they're like, yeah, man, they were just like, dude, why would he do that? Like, that's so gay. Like, that's so fucking stupid that he would do that. And like, blah, blah, blah. And they told me, they like shed some light on all the hater parts of it. And it really cemented for me the people who got excited and who reached out to me and told me, good job, thumbs up, like amazing. I'm so stoked that you did that. And it really cemented that the people who I'm cultivating in my life, I'm very grateful for, because they're not going to question that type of stuff. If you've known me for a short period of time, maybe that was a little weird for you. But if you've known me and we've had deeper conversations past just riding bikes, you know that that's the kind of thing that I do. I need to do things that are a little wild. I'm very impulsive. And so to hear all the hater side of it, it was just great. Like, it just gave me more ammunition. It's like, all right, well, about it, like, who cares? Like, it doesn't bother me at all. People who are supportive. And a few times, and this was just out of the blue one day here in San Diego, because he's recently moved here, and he came up to me at Ocean Beach, and we were talking about having like a little bit of anxiety with other people who have they'll like post something and maybe it doesn't do very good, and they get down on them. Oh, I don't know, like, yeah, I should delete it and blah, blah, blah. During my Fise run, the very first thong run, he said that he was like, you in that moment was perfect. He said, you had so much confidence and everything that you did was just excellent. And like, I didn't do any tricks because honestly, I was afraid to eat shit and like get my bars caught in like my sprocket, or get my balls caught in my sprocket rather. And he gave me excellent kind of talking to, and he was like, what you did was perfect. We needed to see that. And it's little moments like that really push all the haters. Just, it pushes them down, and you hear less and less of their little whiny bullshit voices, and you hear more of the positive ripples that you caused.
Hell yeah, man. That's some great advice there. Like, really, when you think about it, the people that were hating and that didn't understand it, fuck those people. They don't need to be a part of your life. That's all going to bring you down slowly over the course of, your time. And why would you want to have negative people like that in your short lifespan? Like, most people live to be 80. That's
Exactly.
Not very fucking long. Like, when you really break it down, that's not that long.
Nope.
So have fun with it. But yeah, dude, like you said, the positive people that were there for you, that messaged you and told you how awesome that was, the people that reached out and, like the president of Fise, those people,
Yep.
those are the people that everyone should be trying to have in their life, you know?
Absolutely, man. You know, like times are tough everywhere. So, you know, send some good love to people.
Hell yeah,
It's just,
man.
It's a small little thing to do, you know?
I love it. Oof.
Truth hurts, motherfucker.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, man.
It's all good, though.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about, while we're on the topic of thongs and leopard print and whatnot, let's talk about BoneDeth. BoneDeth is one of my favorite companies, and I think that for a lot of people, it's kind of a favorite just because of the whole branding and the way that they went about things. And you actually were a BoneDeth rider for quite a while. Tell us about that.
Yeah, man, that was crazy. So I had moved to San Diego. And let's see, I met Dirt Ron. Probably the first couple months that I lived here, and him and I instantly hit it off. I mean, I don't know anybody that's met Dirt Ron that hasn't hit it off with him. That dude is just like a lovable little puppy, and he's just such an incredible person to be around. His energy is so infectious, and his ride is so strange and goofy. He rides like a smooth camel. Like, I don't know how else to describe that. Like, he's a very different breed of human being and of bike rider. And so he actually gave me a pair of old forks. And then Sean Burns started to reach out to me like via text and via Instagram and whatnot. And then he ended up sending me a motor bone, and, you know, I got it like at cost and like all this stuff. So like I definitely had to like pay for some things, which was totally fine. Like, I love to support that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's Sean Burns. That dude is a fucking icon. And so that was great, you know, and he just kind of saw that I had more of this like rocker kind of style, like wild kind of style back over here. And being in the scene of San Diego, there's like nobody on BoneDeth down here. That's like, it's like a dying brand, you know? So I was super grateful for that. And Sean actually ended up coming out here, and I ended up having a connection with a pool up in, where was that? Sunland Hills, I think it's what it's called. I forget. It's called like the First Castle, FURST, First Castle. And it is a Hollywood shooting location now. And thankfully, I was very honored to be on Rick Thorne's Pool Seekers. Shout out to Rick Thorne for having me on that. That was nuts. So we went there. And I ended up just making friends with the homeowner, you know, the family that owns the home now. And I told him, I said, hey, man, if I ever like want to come back here, like, would it be cool if I gave you my phone number? And he's like, oh, absolutely. You know, that'd be great. And I set up a session for Sean and I. And at the time when I met the guy, Boost Mobile had paid $1,200 to go there and Rick Thorne. And so I was like, oh, dude, I'm not going to have money to pay for this. Like, this is insane. But I just called the guy and said, hey, I have a friend coming to town. We would love to ride there. We're not filming anything that's going to make money. We would just love to get like some fun clips. And he's like, dude, totally. Like, don't even worry about it. So perfect opportunity. Sean Burns in a pool. It was my first time meeting Sean Burns. And we go up to this pool, and Sean had met some guys from, I want to say they're from New Zealand. If I'm wrong, I apologize. They're the Nothing's Wrong crew. And they ended up meeting Sean in Austin and ended up buying some like clunker $600 Subaru and drove it out to LA. And they drove up and met us at this pool. And as they got there, there was a fire that started on the hillsides outside of the pool. So where this pool was, it's kind of hard to explain, but there's a bunch of hills, like huge hills. And this pool was situated on top of this giant hill. There's a house, it's like this castle is humongous, and there's a big pool in there, but you have to drive up this winding hill to the very top. And when you got to the top, you could see out for tens of miles in every direction, 360-degree view. And one of the hillsides caught fire while they were coming up there. And so there was like major traffic backed up. They ended up squeaking through, but we're at this pool and we're sweeping it, getting ready. And we see this like plumage of smoke, and it's like crazy scene. And then all of a sudden it started raining ash on us. And we're like sweeping ash, the pool, just going like, man, this isn't it right now. and the sound and the sky was super orange and everything was just burning around us, and we're getting to session this pool. It was incredible. And to have Sean there and a couple of the other BoneDeth dudes there, like Robbie was there, and it was just, it made me feel really good because I hadn't been in SoCal very long, and I'm not someone who blows people up on Instagram to find out where pool pins are. I'm not going to be like, you know, where's that spot? Yo, show me that spot. Like, I don't want to blow people's spots up. So it made me feel really good for someone who rides pools as like a specific hobby of his, Sean Burns, to be able to offer that spot. And we got some incredible moments filmed in that. And that was what went into the Too Fast for Food. And that was just there. I don't think I'm ever going to have another day like that riding a pool. I could run out and grab the book if you wanted me to grab it real quick, but it's on my post, and you could probably find it. Drawn. He took a tabletop photo of me, and you see Sean holding the camera in like the bottom corner, and I'm doing the table, and you can see the white dust on my tires from the pool, and in the background, fire from the flames, just like in a 10-foot deep pool. It's just like, what the fuck is this, dude? This is amazing.
Yeah, man, that is fucking wild. And to hear that, right? Like, you know, the hillside is burning and all this stuff is going on.
So good.
Yeah. All this stuff is going on and Burns is there.
It was just like, you know, there was legitimate conversations of should we leave? Like, this is getting pretty bad. Once night fell, dude, we could see actually how much of the hill was starting to burn. And now we could see the flames. So it was almost like it started on the bottom of like the backside of the hill, and then it started to creep up, and then we could finally see it once the flames started peaking on the crest of the hill. And we had a few moments where we were like, should we get out of here? Because this is sketchy. But then we realized, like, if we get out of here, we're just going to be stuck in traffic. And why don't we just stay here and just keep riding? And it was like us and rain, the sweet colors that would come in, and we were just like intoxicated with how beautiful and insane the view was. It was literally burning around us, and we're sessioning a pool. And not to mention, we're sessioning a pool that the Beach Boys played in. When it was full of water, the Beach Boys were on a floating dock, and they played a live show broadcast at 5 a.m. to Japan. Long time ago. You can look it up on YouTube, type in like Beach Boys First Castle live performance or something. And the Beastie Boys had a music video there. They're replaying all of the sound, and you're just like, oh, hey, let me get that tabletop again. It's like, what? Okay.
Yeah, it's wild to hear all the history behind that, especially with the Beastie Boys. I'm a huge fan of the Beastie Boys, so to hear that they had a music video there is incredible.
I wish I could tell you what the song was, because that's just my stupid memory not being able to pull it up. But we'll find it, and I'll send it to you, because I looked up all these things afterwards. Dude, that castle has some history too. So behind the castle, there is a cement cross that is, oh geez, how tall was it? I would say it's probably like 15 feet tall, maybe like 2 foot thick horizontal beam, 2 foot thick vertical beam, big old cross. And on the bottom was a large cement block that it was attached to. And I kid you not, dude, this said it had KKKK on the bottom of this block, which is, from my understanding, is Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And this was like, from what the family told us, this was some old Nazi like temple, like maybe not temple, like compound. And they had like underground tunnels. That's why they really loved the placement of it, because they would have underground tunnels from down below, and they would sneak people in. Architecture. Castle has like a bowl, punch like a little point. And then it has all this like German background too. You're just like, what is going on with this place? So the history of that place is unbelievable. And the family who lives there now currently, they're really trying to, you know, pull it away from the Nazi connections that are there and all that stuff for good reason. But it was just really insane, the energy and the vibe of that whole place. And then to have it be this apocalyptic experience was very wild.
Yeah, I could totally understand that, man. That seems, that's so wild, especially just to hear the history behind it, right? And it's cool that people are able to look past it, and these people are really trying to step away from that. And, the owners of this place, they don't want to be affiliated with that. Definitely not.
No, nobody wants to. That's horrible.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, we were talking a little bit about BoneDeth and your part Too Fast for Food, and that is one of my favorite videos. Last week we had Dean Dickinson on the show, and he talked to us about his part, and it was incredible. I really liked it. But I got a couple questions for your clips in there. So,
yeah, man.
A few of the clips that I feel like didn't get enough credit. One was the fence ride closer to the end. I think it's the third clip from the end. And that thing is so fucking gnarly. I'm going to play it in a second, but you gap out of this bowl and you're on the top of this. And if you had missed it, you could have got a really bad rib shot on the spikes there.
Yeah, so that was at the Paula skate park. And that was, I pulled it in 3 tries. That was after riding the Paula pool. There's a Paula pool just down the street that has been in San Diego for many, many years. And from my understanding is it's been dug out and filled back in over and over and over and over and over. So this was another opportunity with Rick Thorne during the Pool Seekers thing. He had Steve Caballero, and we all showed up to this pool. Rick had been digging it out for quite a while now, like probably finally ready to, and we session morning, and someone was like, hey, the Paula skate park's down the street, like we should just go check it out. And I was like, all right, cool. So we cruised down there, grabbed some food on the way, and we're riding the Paula park, and like it was amazing. That place is huge. It has so many lines, so many hips, just great. But I couldn't stop looking at this corner quarter pipe. I'd probably say it was maybe 6 or 7 foot tall quarter pipe, and the fence, it just went straight up and then had a nice little bend in it. And I was like, man, if you could get your tires on the bend of that fence, it looks like it would be perfect to just set both tires up there and hop right back in. And so I went up, and the first time that I tried to do it, my tires slid directly off. And I was like, oh, okay. So this fence is not grippy. Like, all right, fine, let's try it again. And I go up again, and I felt the balance, but I wasn't fully off again. And I'm like, damn, okay, this helps the main focus of what we're aiming for by hook. And he sees me like, okay, it looks like Maddie's going to really try to fucking pull this. And he just like runs over to the edge of the fence and gets down in perfect position right before I pulled it. And I jump up, and right as I hit the fence, you hear a really loud crack. You can't hear it from the clip because the clip was actually a drone footage. But the fence broke, and the bottom of the fence snapped. So as I landed, the bottom part broke, and the fence like kind of caved in on me. And I felt that, and I just yanked off, and it gave me a perfect spring back in. But it was terrifying, and I actually broke the concrete of the fence, like where the foundation of the fence was held together. It was fucking amazing.
Dude, that is fucking wild.
Yeah, if you want, it'll take me 1 second. I'll grab the photo because he actually sent it to me and I blew it up. So hang on.
Yeah, do it.
So this is the photo that he took.
Wow, that's a great photo, by the way.
And if you can see, like, it's hard to see if I can see, the fence is broken. Like, it is bent. It is really, I'm surprised the whole thing didn't just break off. I'm so grateful for this photo. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah, man. That is such a rad photo. I love the fact that you actually had that printed out.
Well, the thing, so like I said, I grew up playing sports and was definitely a jock. Everything was pretty easy for me. So I was a very egotistical kid. Like, I was very conceited, and learning that we are all special, but we are all special pieces of shit at the same time is a very valuable lesson. Let ego grow too big. So I have a lot of really cool photos that people have sent to me over the years that I don't ever frame. And I just put them in like a couple pieces of cardboard, like boom, and then put them in the closet and I forget about them. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that I just really wanted to cultivate things that make me feel good. And I don't like to have photos of myself up, But there are some moments in your life that people have documented that if you can wake up every morning and see a photo that makes your hands sweat, but at the same time you get the sensation of the accomplishment that you did it, and you put yourself through that, you know, you can kind of get through anything. Like having someone cut you off going to work doesn't even bother you now because you just did a fence ride where it broke and you almost ate shit, but like you pulled it. So I started to really understand the special connection that a photographer can have with you, and that it is okay to be excited and pat yourself on the back. And I started to frame a couple of the photos that really mean a lot to me. And that's one of them. That photo is one of my favorite photos that anyone's ever taken. And it was very hard for me to frame it because I don't want to look at myself and be like, oh, look at you. You look so great. Because that's not where I'm coming from. But I want to come from a place of like, fuck yeah, dude, I did that. And that is amazing. And I don't ever have to do it again. Like, let's not do it again. But it gets me stoked.
Hell yeah, dude. It's honestly, like I was saying, such a rad photo. And I love the fact that you are so positive about it too, you know? Because realistically, like, that's one of the gnarliest fucking things I've seen in quite a while. Like, you know, if you had overshot that fence, it could have really ended tragically.
Oh, it would have been, and if that fence would have broken, the concrete would have, I was like, holy shit, I pulled it. We went over to the fence and we pushed on it, and that thing was like a loose pole. Like, it was no longer a stable fence. And it just one of those things where it's like, that's kind of been my life since I was young, was like, if you show up to a session and you're feeling good, like, you may not come back to this spot. I mean, Paula was like a 45-minute drive, maybe like an hour from where I currently live. And I just have it in my mind, like, I'm never going to be back. You kind of need to do those things. Like, you don't really want to think about it too long, because if you think about it too long, you may never the moment. And it needed to happen, and everything came to completion. And you have to honor those instinctual feelings of doing that kind of stuff.
Fuck yeah, man. That's so rad. You know, and like I had said before, that clip I feel like never gets enough love. It's such a great clip. But another one that I feel that, you know, another amazing clip that you did that I don't know if it gets enough love is the huge ledge drop into the plywood grass hill. That clip is fucking wild.
So that spot, I actually have a little bit of a. I might want to one up myself. Maybe this is me trying to call myself out. You know, once it becomes a little more public knowledge that I want to one up myself. But I'm thinking of doing something else off of that, and I'm not going to say it just to kind of keep it a little on the wraps. And also, I haven't fully thought this all the way through. My jobs at the time, bicycle for it. So I have, like, you know, the backpack, and I would carry the food and all that stuff. And I kept riding by this ledge, and I'm looking at it, and, like, I don't know if you're the same way, but most of us bike riders, we're actually pretty good at geometry. I don't think we realize it. Like, I may not be good at the physical numbers of geometry, but I know that if this is the starting point and this is the gap and here's where it's going to land, I know that you need this speed. You know, I can just see it. We can just see what's possible. And I kept seeing this gap. And so I wasn't sure how strict the security might be, because it's downtown San Diego. There's security guards at a bunch of different hotels and establishments, you know. So I went there in the morning, and I would just walk over on the hill and, like, have my coffee and, like, watch people and see if it was, like, going to be a bust. And it seemed chill in the morning. I went there in the afternoon. It seemed like it was fine. I went there in the evening, and I never even climbed up onto it until that day, until it was actually time. And someone had come into town who I had just recently met. We weren't even close or anything, you know, and we ended up driving by that spot. We were showing him some other spots, and I was like, oh, dude, okay, fuck it. Let's do it. I called Fudger. I told Fudger where it was. I gave him the whole explanation. I got a piece of wood from a friend for that plywood. And so I went there late at night and set up the plywood behind the trees. So if you were to look at the ledge, there were trees right in front of the ledge, and I put the plywood behind the trees. They weren't very trimmed, so you could kind of hide some stuff back there. But the way that I was thinking was like, okay, if this plywood is not here in the morning, this is not going to be able to get done. That grass bank was loam. Like it was a shitty, loose dirt and clumps of grass. There was no fucking way you could jump. It's a 16-foot high ledge. There's no way you're going to jump from that height and land and get away from it and roll without having a piece of wood to land on. And so the next day, we met at a coffee shop, and I'm like stretching and like doing push-ups and stuff and like soaked. And we go over there. The plywood's still there. I set the plywood up. I have 2 rocks because the plywood wanted to just slide down the bank. So I found 2 rocks and like stuffed the rocks in there. And there's people with dogs walking around, and dogs are shitting like over by the grass and pissing over by the grass. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like a dog shit mountain for people. Like this is like their little dog shit hill. And that's what Wong Tran actually said. It was like dog shit mountain was what I conquered. But I climbed up on top of it. And dude, once I got up there, I mean, this is a full sheet of plywood. We're talking 4x8. That thing looked like a Post-it note when I was on top of that ledge. My hands started sweating. And one thing I was nervous about, I'm not sure if you can really see it in the clips, but there are some pipes that come up on the side of the ledge. They come up about 1.5 feet or so. And I hadn't judged how wide the ledge was. And so I was nervous that if I got up there, I wouldn't be able to pedal or like keep a good momentum without having to dodge those pipes. I saw the width of it. Once I saw the width, I knew that it was perfect. Like I didn't have to worry about the pipes. So that made me feel good. And I, stood up there, kind of took a couple breaths, like did the whole like walk back and like slowly kind of pedal, pull the brakes and look. And once I felt like, okay, this is all the speed that I need, there were at least 10 people who weren't even associated with the group who was there, started filming. People with their dogs were like, are you going to jump off that shit? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, okay, we're going to film this. And everybody was up in a tree taking a photo. The freaked out one and done. And like, you can tell by the sound of my voice when I'm like, whoa! I mean, it was just such a rush. And the speed that I got out of that, and I'm riding in this like loose dirt, loose bark type of ground, and I had so much speed that when I hit the curb, it launched me all the way into the street. And I think that gap was like a 10-foot gap just on its own, coming from the curb and jumping over the sidewalk. So that was pretty insane to see that, because I didn't even think about it in the moment. But man, I see that thing all the time, and I want to one up myself. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll one up myself.
That's fucking wild, man. I would love to hear what you got in mind for that. I will take it out of the episode if you like, just so you don't have to call yourself out publicly.
Well, it's just I haven't fully thought it out yet, and I need to be up there to kind of go through the motions again.
Yep.
But let's essentially say the height of it and the distance from the end of the ledge to where I would potentially land, it would be an incredible. Let's just say that.
That would be fucking wild, dude.
So I've thought about it. It's been brewing in my head. My hands are sweating profusely right now thinking about it, because it gets me really excited. And this is why I ride bikes, because there are very few things in life that chemically alter my body as much as doing a big BMX move. And there are some that are like crazy borderline fantasy where, yeah, you wish you could 3-whip over a fucking roof to roof gap, but it ain't going to happen. It's fun to think about, but it's not possible. But then you start venturing into the ones that are gnarly, but doable. And I'm getting chills thinking about it, And so those are little indications from doing this for 21 years that my intuition is probably not too far off. Like, it's probably doable. Now I just have to align myself with the reality of the risk of it and get myself really feeling good. So like the week before, I'm going to be stretching. I'm going to be foam rolling. I'm going to be getting like 3 sessions in during that week, while holding down a full-time job. And like, there's so many other factors that go into something like that. For me, like I need to be getting myself up to that level. And I love that. Like, that's fun to work towards stuff, you know, and it's a grass hill. So even if it doesn't go that well, it's grass. Like, what are you going to roll out and tumble on some grass? It's a big fucking deal. It'll be awesome.
Hell yeah, man. That is such a positive way of looking at it, right? And I love the fact that, like, you do need the plywood there. Like, I had actually wrote this in my notes that you got to have it because of the way that the hill is, like, you know, shaped, and then also just all of the bullshit on that hill, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I even think, like, a normal good hill, you'd still consider putting plywood on it, considering that, like, you know, your tires are going to hit so hard from 16 feet with, you know, whatever you're riding for PSI wise, probably 80 PSI, that you might sink into the ground a little bit and it might buck you off. Whereas the plywood, you're going to land on that and it's a bigger surface that'll touch the ground essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you look at that clip, I catch my front tire the last 3 inches of that piece of plywood. So it was like, I think if I would have missed my front tire, I think my front tire might have went a little sink. It might have sunk in and I might have gone OTB because I landed pretty back heavy with, you know, for obvious reasons. But I think the weight that was still existing on the front tire, if it didn't hit that plywood, it would have been a no-go. So it was one of those gaps where it was one of those setups where it's like, yeah, if someone wants to talk shit about jumping into a grass bank and using plywood and stuff, well, that's fine. But why don't you go to the setup and see how you could have done it? Because there's no other way. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. We're just looking at it right now, and where your tire hits the ground, it's like literally the back half of your front tire hits the edge of the plywood. Yep. The rest of it is full on grass.
It was just perfect timing. And that was one of the things where my adrenaline wanted me to be way more kind of out of tune. It wanted to just roll crazy and like get me super hand sweaty, get me stoked, all this stuff. But I needed to fine tune, like, okay, if I'm going this fast, that plywood needs to be here, not here. And if I would have set it in the first spot that I did it, I would have missed it. And so I was actually grateful to the bank because that shitty, stupid ass bank, when I set the plywood down first time, it slid about 2 feet. And I was like, God damn it. But then I looked back and I went, actually, wow, if I have that, that's probably a better spot for the plywood to be. And then that's when I found the rocks and put the 2 rocks on the corners. And thankfully it didn't move up until I landed on it. But if it hadn't have slid in that first part, I probably wouldn't have moved it. And that might have been a bad thing. So there's so many factors that go into doing stuff like that, where just be mindful of the adrenaline that's coursing through your veins. And if you're going to put yourself in a really risky situation, take some deep breaths, look at the environment. How can the environment help you? Because one of the things that, I don't know if people even really see it that much. I know Fudger's taken some clips of me where I do it, but when I'm about to do something pretty serious, I kiss my fingers and I kiss my frame. And I have a little sticker on my frame. Actually, I have two stickers on my frame. One is a little heart that I just put, just a white piece of electrical tape that I draw a little heart on. And the other is a little like sticker dog paw. And because I now have a dog for the last 4 years of my life. I found her down in San Diego. That's a whole nother story, but she changed my whole entire world. And so as much as bike riders, as much as we want to come to a spot and just kill the spot, annihilate the spot, like show that spot who's boss, you are an energetic organism coming to a spot of other energetic organisms. And if you are not gonna give a little bit of credit to the frequencies that are already there and to the environment that's already there and pay a little bit of respects to what you're about to try to do, that environment might not let you pull that trick because your selfishness and your ego is making it all about you. And it needs to be all about the whole encompassing aspect of taking this beautiful piece of architecture and doing your artwork on it. You're not taking some inanimate objects and just throwing your like jizz all over it. Like, you're trying to create beautiful art and poetry with these things that normal people can't see. Normal people cannot see these types of setups. And so I used to get a little embarrassed when I would kiss my fingers and kiss my frame. And then I'd kiss like the ledge, or I'd kiss the rail that I'm about to foofanu. But that's my way of saying, like, hey, I love my bike. I love this bike, and I love this dog that has given me these new views on relationships. And so I kiss it and I say, I love you. And I'm going to come back, and I'm going to come back from this. I'm doing this for the love that you create. And then I touch the surface that I'm about to do some crazy shit on. And I say, I love you too. And be good to me, because I'm going to be good to you. And if you're mean to me, well, okay, I'll give you one, but like, just don't be mean to me, and let's have a good relationship. And then you go for it. But I always have to ground myself and center myself, because you got your friends with their cameras on, your adrenaline is coursing through your veins. You're on a different level. Bring yourself back down, get yourself in that zone, and really observe what you're about to do. It's about to be fantastic.
Hell yeah, man. I love that. That's actually such a great way to bring yourself down and calm down from, the adrenaline and whatnot and the nervousness of about to try something, right? And that is something that, like, I can't remember who it is, but there's a certain skateboarder that kind of has like an OCD about that kind of stuff, where he has to knock on something 3 times before he goes and tries something. And it's definitely like one of those things that even if it does absolutely nothing and it's all just for you and like mentally for you, that is like perfect. That's exactly what you need, and that's most important.
Yep, absolutely. That, I would say that all of my strange little eccentricities that I have cultivated throughout my life, they were a little more dormant when I was younger. But now that I live in a place where everybody's got the newest fresh gear, newest fresh clothes, everyone, looks steezy as fuck and has all their stuff, I bring out little bits of things that help make me feel more like myself. And that is one of the things. I need to pay homage to the great people that have been here before, and I need to pay homage to these beautiful spots that we want to go shred. This is how you got to do it.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. That's so rad. Anyways, you had mentioned that you got a dog about 4 years ago, and that it was kind of, you'd found her. So I would love to kind of hear about this, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Roxy, come here. Rox, come here. Come here. So I was working, come here. I was working downtown at this little coffee shop. Come here. Come up here. And it was connected to this little outdoor space. This is Roxy. You say hi. Good girl. It had this little outdoor event space, and there were like food trucks that would show up there. And one of the things that I was in was like a little coffee container, like an old storage container. And there was a little dog park over by the side. And this guy walked in, and he walked into the outdoor space. Do you want to go? Okay. And so he walked in, and he didn't order any coffee, so I didn't have a chance to really like scan him or like see who he was. But I noticed he had this little orange dog, and he left about 15 minutes after I had seen him, and he didn't have a dog. And I thought, oh, that's weird. I thought this guy had a dog. Like, that's really strange. But I didn't really think much of it. I was like, all right, whatever. And my shift was ending, so I clocked out of my shift, and I would get a cup of coffee, and I'd go over to the little dog park. Always walked in. I'd finish my coffee, and I walk over, and I see the security guard, Robin, and she was on the phone. And I look, and I see this little orange dog tied up to the fence with a bag full of like all of her stuff and a sign that basically said, this, like, I'm really good with cats. I'm good with cars. I'm good with bikes. I like skateboards. I like the beach. I play really well with everything. And like, just, I'm a very active dog. I need a loving home. And I'm like, what the fuck? This guy left his dog? This is gnarly. And so the security guard, she was like, yeah, I'm on the phone right now with the pound and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have them come over and pick this dog up. And I was like, no. I can't take this dog but I've got friends that have yards and that have dogs. Like, just hang up the phone. Most pounds are kill shelters anyway. So like, just let me take this dog. And I went to touch her and to pet her, and she bit me. And I was like, all right, you get one, but like, I'm going to help you, you know? And then she was fine, but she was very scared. She looked like shit, man. You could see her ribs. You could see her vertebrae. Like, she was not fed well. And I walked her around downtown for about 20 minutes. And dude, I kid you not, I had business people saying, "Oh, your dog's so cute." And I'm like, "Oh, it's not my dog. Like, I honestly just found this dog. I think her owner just bailed on her. He left her a sign and all this stuff." And people gave me their business cards saying, like, "If you don't find a home, please call me. Like, I can make this work." And I wasn't really thinking too much of it, other than like, I text, or actually I called a couple of my friends who have yards and have dogs. And nobody responds to your calls anymore. No one answers the phone call anymore. Everyone just fucking texts you, you know? So I'm standing at a stoplight and I'm not thinking about it. And I just look down and she's already looking up at me. And I've never been looked at by any creature like that. I'm an only child. I am constantly starving for attention and for love. And she looked at me in a way that it felt like I had an essential organ inside of my body manifest itself into a dog. And there wasn't an obligation feel. It was just, it was almost a full understanding of, I need you in my life, and I think you need me. And I immediately unhooked her leash, and we walked around. It's called the Gas Lamp area down in downtown San Diego. Very, very much so city. And dude, she crossed the street with me with no leash. She stayed right next to me with no leash. We walked about 8 or 9 blocks. And then I realized, like, okay, I'm being a little impulsive. I should probably leash her back up. But I knew right then and there that I needed to keep her. And she's been with me for 4.5 years now. It's amazing.
Hell yeah, man. That's so good to hear, you know? Unfortunately, some people just fucking suck. And,
Yep.
you know, anybody that does that, you're kind of a terrible person. And, like, whatever your reasons are, I understand. But at the same time, dude, a dog cannot just be left somewhere like that, especially, like, just left anywhere, right? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it was, you know, a couple people tried to, like, defend the guy. And they said, well, he left the dog at a dog park, so at least people who love dogs would kind of be there. And I'm like, okay, that's a semi-acceptable excuse, but you could have stayed with the dog and waited till people showed up and then told your story and said, hey, whatever's going on in my life, I can't take on this dog. Do you happen to know anybody that could take this dog? Blah, 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 blah. And you know what? One of the things that has never settled with me was whoever owned her, they painted her toenails. She had each of her toenails painted red. And that made me think that she had a really good connection and a bond with most likely a female, most likely like a younger female. So this dog had the patience to sit through getting her toenails painted and the loving mindset to do that with someone that she cared about. And these people leave her. And that has never settled with me. And it will never settle with me. And I went to the vet. I actually called a bunch of vets because I was a little nervous. Sometimes homeless people steal dogs here, and they get to a point where they're like, oh my God, I can't take care of this dog anymore. And they leave them and put signs out and have people take them. This was a sign on a cardboard. It was a cardboard sign with like a Sharpie. So like, how did I know this was someone who had money and a yard and any of this? Could have been a homeless person that stole someone's dog, and this dog could be microchipped. So I need to call a vet. But the problem that I was encountering was that the vets would say, oh, okay, yeah, bring her in and we'll scan her. And I said, well, my name isn't going to be on the chip, but I'm taking care of this dog. So if I bring this dog in and my name, which is not going to be on the chip, shows that it's not my name, what are you going to do? And they were like, oh, don't worry about it. Just bring her in. And I said, no. What are you going to do? And they said, oh, well, we would keep her if your name isn't on the chip, and you would get her back in like 14 days if no one claims her. And I would just hang up the phone on them. And so I waited until I found a vet that said we would never take the dog away from the primary caregiver, which was me in this moment. And I brought the sign. I brought the bag of all the stuff that I found her with. This is only a week after I found her. And, you know, I go in at 9 o'clock in the morning. The vet scans her. Beep, 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 beep. She's chipped. I'm like, I'm devastated, man. I think I picked up someone's dog who was stolen. And so this dog and I had just bonded within 20 minutes, and now we've already had a week together. Like, this can't be happening. So they tried the number with the guy who was associated with the dog with the chip, and he didn't answer. So they said, well, let's have you set a time to come back, and we'll get her poop checked for like heartworm and all that kind of stuff. And I said, okay. So I went all over San Diego to every beach, every dog park. I'm thinking this is the last day I have with this beautiful little fox. And I come back to the vet. Dude, I'm thinking I'm going to have to like fight this motherfucker. And I was just like, I was so ready to be like, look, dude, I need you to pull yourself out of your biased view, and I need you to look at how amazing this dog and I have bonded. And I didn't have to do that. He wasn't there, but he had called back and said, whoever has her can have her. And I instantly put my name on her chip. The vet was like, oh yeah, the guy's name is Randy. And I was like, no, don't tell me anymore. They're like, why not? And I'm like, because if you tell me his last name, I'm going to search him out. I'm going to drive him out to the middle of the fucking desert. I'm going to strip him of his clothes, and I'm going to put a sign, and I'm going to tell him good luck. That's what I'm going to do to him, because that was the best decision that asshole has ever made in his life, because it changed my life. So fuck him, but thank you, and I love you for the bullshit life that you lived, because you just improved mine incredibly.
Hell yeah, man. That's an amazing story, honestly. You know, there's one thing that I hate. It's people that will take on a big responsibility like that and then just a month later fucking dip out. You know, I cannot stand that shit at all. It infuriates me. We had 2 rabbits that they were mine, but I ended up getting them from people who just didn't want them anymore. You know, they gave them to my girlfriend's sister-in-law, who is a rabbit caregiver. She has a bunch of rabbits, and these rabbits literally were stuck in cages for fucking so long, and like just not given love, not given anything. And they lived here with me in the studio for, 3 years, and they had an amazing 3 years here. And then unfortunately, time comes around and everything goes at one point. So recently, my last one that I had, Cinna, ended up passing away, and it was heartbreaking, but I know that she had a really good life here and that I gave her everything she ever deserved,
That's awesome. Well, good for you, because, man, people who mistreat animals like that, I hope they live horrible, depressing, painful lives. And I don't wish anything bad on anyone except for people that fuck around with animals like that. That's not cool. I've always had dogs and like animals in my life, but I never understood the connection that my mom had with all the dogs that I grew up with. I never understood it until my dog Roxy looked at me. She looked at me and it was like, oh my God. I actually called my mom and I said, hey mom, I'm really sorry that I ever gave you a hard time when you would bring the dog just with us in the car to go get food. When I was like, come on, leave her at home. Like, she's fine. She'll be at home. My mom's like, no, she wants to be with us. She wants to be in the car. It's fine. And I never understood it. And now I get it. I get it. Like, the dog just wants to be around you and you just want to be around the dog. Like, I completely understand. So it was very depressing to find out that people live like that. Fucking assholes, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck those people, And
she was only a year and a month old. And so that was like another synchronicity type thing. Was her microchip said that she was born in February, and that's when I'm born. And we had moved down here in February of was it 2015? I think it was 2015. And so I moved down here the month that she was born, and then I found her a year and a month later on March 30th was when I found her. One of my friends is a tattoo artist, and I'm not sure if I can get up into the camera well enough, but I recently got a tattoo of her. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's like 3 lines.
Yep.
Maybe. Yeah. So there's 3 lines right here and a little circle. And this is her dog print, her like nose print in there.
That's awesome.
And yeah. And it just means like, that the 3rd month for 3 lines for March, and then 30 for the 30th. And I was super grateful to be able to get that one of my close friends down here recently lost his dog, and he texted me, and he went very young. He was only like 5 or 6. It was actually Roxy's like first ever boyfriend, like dog friend, and he texted a group of us that said, who were like really close with him. And he said, hey, really sorry to have to tell you this, but he has passed, and just wanted to tell you guys, like, thank you for making his life so fun. And almost instantly I texted my tattoo friend and I said, hey, I really need to get this tattoo idea of my dog's nose print on me, because one of my friends just lost his dog and I need to get her in ink on my body, like immediately. And I got it the next month. So it was just worked out perfectly.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, I have to get Mr. Boone and Senna tattooed on me, my little bun buns. We still have we have 2 other rabbits and then cats as well. But yeah, those 2 were, they were my best friends, and they were quite awesome. And it was really unfortunate to lose both of them within a year. But yeah. What do you do? That's life. I gave them literally everything we could, right? Like Senna, she was battling cancer for, a good year before it kind of took her out. We like spent thousands of dollars on surgeries, I have a really close friend, Rob Jensen, right now, who he actually just went through a really, really unfortunate crash and broke a bunch of ribs, and he's in a major healing state right now. So if you can, send him some positive, good vibes. But he is a goat whisperer. This motherfucker loves goats, and he has like a farm, and like just, I have never been around animals that are not traditional, that are usually you had like dogs and cats, and like that's about it. Like I'm not someone that had a lizard or had birds or anything. And when I see the way this guy acts with his goats, it's just like, yeah, you guys love each other. Like there's no denying it. Those goats will rest their head on him. He came back from the hospital after being there for a couple days, and his goat just like rested its head on him for multiple minutes and was so happy to see him. And it just goes to show you that as long as you have an open heart, anything can be receiving of love, and you can fulfill anything. Like you can make any animal feel incredible, and that animal can make you feel incredible. So don't think about it in terms of like, you have to have a dog because that's what people do. Like, dude, you can have bunnies. Like I had 2 bunnies when I was really, really young. I was probably 3 or 4, and we had 2 bunnies, and I'll never forget those bunnies, but I haven't had bunnies since. But bunnies would be amazing. Or like even a pig. Having a pig, those things are so smart. You got to have the space for them. But a pig would be an awesome animal to have. And I love having people in my life that have all different kinds of animals, because you just see the bonds that can be created. It's wonderful. I completely agree with you. That's definitely, if you've got an open heart, you can make anything, your best friend, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck yeah. Anyways, let's get back to some BMX stuff here. So,
yeah,
over the last few years, you ended up switching from BoneDeth to GT, correct? And
correct.
Yeah. So what was it like switching from such a tight-knit family niche brand to kind of a big brand bike company, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, I was trying to do my best to navigate it to where I wouldn't step on anybody's toes, because I didn't want to stop supporting BoneDeth. And to this day, I'm still riding BoneDeth forks that are bent and fucked up, and like I'm still riding them because like they still got life in them, and I still love the leopard print seat, the slim seat. That's going to be my seat for life, like hopefully. And so it kind of just came about. A couple of friends of mine were talking about GT and who was getting picked up by them, blah blah blah. And I was honestly sitting next to Gary Young, and I was telling him like, man, I'd love to just hit up Jeff Z, because I know he's the team manager now, but I don't have Jeff Z's, like, I'm not going to DM him. Like, that's kind of stupid. And Gary just grabbed his phone and sent a little text message, didn't say anything what he was doing. And then he grabbed his phone and showed it to me. And it was basically him saying like, hey, do you think Maty would be a good addition to GT? And he sent that to Jeff Z, and Jeff Z was like, actually, yeah, that would be a really good addition. Like, we should connect, and like, I'll have to chat with him. And we talked about it, and Jeff Z was like, yeah, man, like, honestly, I didn't even think about that, but now that you bring it up, like, that would be a pretty good idea, and that'd be a really good fit. So I spoke with Sean Burns over the phone. I didn't want this to like come out as like, oh, I'm like turning my back on BoneDeth or any of that kind of stuff. But, realistically, GT can just offer way more opportunities, and I don't want to burn any bridges at all. I respect Sean, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that he gave me. And I just think that I also think he kind of missed the boat, in the sense of, I'm in San Diego around a crazy big scene of people, and I'm going to keep it unique and keep it core with how I do it. So I kind of feel like there would have been a good opportunity to stay connected with BoneDeth. But I understand, Sean has his own views with that. He gave me the thumbs up. He thought it was a good idea and a really good position for me to be in, and I should take advantage of it, which I thought so too. But I also just didn't want to brand hop, and like company hop, because I think that's really pathetic. And I still wanted to show my love, but I just felt like it would have been the right thing. And so been doing that now for a little over a year, and GT has been awesome. I mean, obviously with the lockdowns and the restrictions on travel and on all that stuff, we haven't been able to do any team trips or any of that, but it's just been like a really, really nice thing. And to come full circle from when I first started riding a GT dyno as my first BMX bike, and now I'm riding a GT Globetrotter, BK's signature frame, and it's just incredible. They've been so welcoming to me. I mean, it's always kind of thrown me off, thinking like, well, I'm a little wild, I'm a little not so mainstream, so I don't think I'm ever going to be able to jump on a mainstream brand. And to be on a brand such as GT while I go ride in my thong and do that kind of stuff, they're still in full support. So it's awesome.
Fuck yeah, man. That's such a great thing to hear about. I was kind of interested because, most times whenever somebody's leaving a brand and going to a new one, you'll see something online, and there really wasn't too much of that, which I think was kind of cool, right? Like, obviously, you still have a huge respect for Burns. You still have a huge respect for BoneDeth, all those guys. And it's just one of those things that it makes more sense for you to take on these opportunities that, unfortunately, Burns and BoneDeth just aren't able to give. It's just something that I think it would be dumb of you not to take that opportunity. And I think he kind of would have agreed. Like, yeah, it's definitely such a great move for you. And, just being able to be on that team, I think, is a really good fit. It really brings everything with GT kind of a big full circle. They've got kind of everyone now, right, for like styles of riding and whatnot, if that makes sense.
It's, dude, the roster that I am grateful to even be thought of to be a part of is just, I mean, Brian Kaczynski, that's enough said, I like all the other guys that are connected to GT, but like, it's fucking Brian Kaczynski, dude. That guy, one of the most motivational dudes. We have like a GT group chat, and sometimes I'm pretty distant and I'm not very responsive and interactive because I just kind of do my own thing. But BK is always stoking people up in the group chat. He's always stoking people up in his stories, on his posts. And to just be able to text that guy at any moment, like I actually asked him about your podcast because I didn't know he was on it. And I was like, hey man, like what's the deal with this guy? Like, was it cool? And he was like, yeah, he's like, definitely do it. The guy was great. It was super chill. And I'm like, oh wow, awesome. And he's not going to cool guy you. There's so many people, especially in San Diego, that cool guy people all the time. And you have to get to a certain credibility level with them for them to even respond to your messages or to even give a shit about saying hi to you at the park. And like, I've never felt that with BK. And I had a chance to meet him over in Fise. We actually were judges for, I want to say it was the amateur spine mini contest. So after I did that thong run, people were like, holy shit, do you want to judge this with us? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. And I'm sitting on the deck, hanging out with BK, getting to judge these kids, and like him and I just talked about all kinds of stuff. So I feel extremely honored. The part of me that struggles with feeling accepting of that type of connection, I don't feel I'm worthy. So I'm constantly trying my best to honor the road that GT has paved by giving it my all and all that kind of stuff. But dude, super honored to be included with that team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you were saying, BK is such a legend, and having him on my show a while back was by far one of the best guests that I've ever had. And what I love about Brian was the fact that, with these shows, typically how it works is for the whole week, I am interested in this person. I'm doing so much trying to learn more and, research and whatnot. And with that, I always feel that once the show ends, unfortunately, I don't really get to talk to too many of these people afterwards, but he was one of those guests that actually reached out to me numerous times afterwards. And when I tried to get other guests on the show that are just too big that he, knows personally, I would ask him. And every single time he was like, absolutely, I'll send them a message. I'll let them know. He's been a huge supporter of us. And honestly, like, the guy is such a legend. And it was really cool to hear that, he's not going to cool guy you, like you were saying. And I think that that's such a perfect analogy.
BK he's true through and through. And it's stuff like that, and even, I feel like I'm suckling at Gary's teat right now saying his name so many goddamn times. But, I was a little shithead kid when I first met Gary Young. Him and Morgan Wade and Walter Perringer came through Northern California right after, oh man, what was that? I think it was like Mega Tour 5. Like they had just gotten done from a Metro Jam. Gary kind of got hurt and they came to the Red Bluff skate park and we just happened to be there. We didn't know anything about them being in town. And I see Morgan Wade and I see Gary Young and we're like, oh my God, that's Gary Young. That's Morgan Wade. Like, this is amazing. And Morgan Wade came in and instantly just started being a goofball and riding with us. And Gary was in board shorts. And I don't know if Gary would remember this. And I promised myself I wouldn't recall it for him because I didn't want him to think of me in a lesser tone. But I was about 15 or 16 and I saw Gary. And the first thing I said was like, what's up, Gary Old? And he like looked at me and he's like, yeah, never heard that one before. And I'm like, oh, shit. Because like the friends that I hang out with, we give each other shit all the time. So I thought that was what you do. You give other people shit. But I didn't realize he was hurt. He was probably in not the best mood because he wasn't able to ride. And then I ended up calling him board shorts because he was wearing board shorts. So it was like Gary board shorts and like all this stupid shit. And then when I met him down here, I had all these thoughts of like, damn it, he thinks I'm going to be this jackass from when I was 16. And he was like, what's up, dude? How's it going? I'm Gary. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. And he's just always been super real. Like he's so real with me and with everybody, honestly, that I take opportunities to hang out with Gary off of the BMX. Like he wanted to put some bricks on his house, like on this one side wall by his garage. And I was just kind of texting with him mainly about bike riding. And I'm like, hey, what you got going on today? And he's like, oh, I got to do some house chores. Like I'm putting some bricks on the wall, like doing this. And I'm like, you need some help? And he's like, yeah, you want to help? And I'm like, sure. I mean, what BMXer in their right mind who is 30, under 30 or whatever, what BMXer would say no to going and doing random construction work with Gary Young? You know what I mean? Like I had to say yes to that. So I went and did it and we did a shitty job. And I think the bricks probably fell after a week because we don't know how to mix concrete well, or who knows what it was. But it was just the experience doing that, it's way more than just the connection on a bike. That's something I've learned a lot too, is being in this area where you go to a skate park and there's upwards of 20 BMXers at the skate park here, which is such a different world from where I grew up. And just because you ride bikes doesn't mean you're going to get along, and so to get along with someone off the bike as well, it's monumental and you need to cherish those relationships. This is someone who I had as posters on my wall, Same with Brian Kaczynski, like meeting that guy in person and realizing that you put him up to this pedestal of like these posters and these epic video parts, but he's just going to be honest and real with you and totally treat you like a normal person. And that is fantastic. I love that.
Hell yeah, man. Gary, he's one of those dudes that I love just because he's so fucking positive. Like, always
time,
that
yeah.
dude has a smile on his face. He's ready to go. There's so many clips of him, like, eating it hard, and he just gets back up and he's ready to go. He's got a smile going, and I think that's like exactly what we need in BMX.
Apparently there's a lot of people that, I want to say it was a little more like back in the day, that thought Gary was kind of like rude to them because he doesn't do drugs, he doesn't drink, but this guy is like, I don't want to say he's perma-stoned, but it's almost like he's on more than a microdose of mushrooms every time because with something that he sees, he almost has this childlike quality to his personality. And if you really think about it, that's what we all kind of possess with riding bikes, is we still want to be kids and we still want to have fun. And we shouldn't let our adult mindset hinder those beautiful little bursts of happiness and bursts of creativity. And when you're around Gary, he will laugh like a sixth grade. What are you doing, Gary? You're acting like a little kid. And like, that is just, you see it so much in his bike riding. And that's why he's such a great dad. And that's why he's such a fun person to be around, because he knows the child that's inside of him. And I think we're all a little afraid to grow up. And I think a lot of BMXers are very afraid to do the responsible adult stuff. So we tend to gravitate more to the child inside of us. He just has a really good grasp of it.
Hell yeah, man. I could see that. Definitely, and like you were saying, I definitely agree that most BMX riders, at the end of the day, we're still kids on the inside. Like, we still are going out doing hoodlum stuff on our bikes. Like, it's all for the fun of it.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how
Absolutely.
many, the thing that to like really blow it out of the water is, I don't know what a normal person does who doesn't ride, doesn't participate in action sports, doesn't do any of that. I don't know what they do on the weekends or what they do when they're not like at work,
They go to brunch, they get mimosas, they get day drunk, and then they I don't know, go to the beach or something. They have very specific lives that people just tend to continue. They just continue and continue and continue. And we are still, we're grown ass men riding little kids' bikes. How can you take life so seriously? You can't.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Like, it is weird because, there's a lot of people that take BMX super aggressively serious, but I don't know, man. At the end of the day, you just got to laugh. You got to smile. And I think the funny thing, too, is I had Dan Foley on the show, and with him, we talked about vlogging. And it's just one of those things that, everybody's kind of weird about it, and everybody kind of makes fun of it. And he just said, it is kind of a silly thing if you think about it. And that's really comparable to being an adult who, fucks around on bikes.
Yeah. Don't ever lose track of the silliness inside of you, because especially now with how serious life is. And dude, we're all dealing with a global pandemic. If you tune into the wrong news channel and go down around the world, and you can walk out of your house feeling like a pile of shit, or you can be cognizant of the seriousness of what's happening, be respectful of it, not be disrespectful to it, and to acknowledge it. But then you can also realize, like, wow, this is a really good opportunity to have longer conversations with my friends who maybe I haven't reached out to. Or some people went back home to stay with their families, and they are getting such quality time with their families that they may never have again. And yes, it sucks for my friends that have kids that are in school or like daycare, or even losing jobs. Like, I was furloughed for 2 months. And the first month, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, I wasn't walking outside, like, covering up, like, super protected like that. But I was definitely freaked out. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And then after the second month, I realized, like, okay, this isn't as crazy as I think we all got led on to believe. Like, someone's not going to cough down the street and the virus enter you, and then all of a sudden you're dead in 4 days. Like, that's not how it's going. So I immediately started to think about road trips. And I gave myself 3 days to think pretty heavily on taking a trip and going back up to Northern California and Southern Oregon and seeing my friends and going riding those beautiful skate parks up there. And I thought one day too long, and I got an email from my work that said to come back to work in 5 days. And I was like, oh, I was devastated, man. I was just thinking, like, I just spent 2 months staying in San Diego, not doing shit, like probably not exercising enough, like not bettering myself. And the moment that I chose to do something for myself, I got called back to work. And I was pissed off. I'm not going to lie, but I was grateful for the opportunity to have work. But it's also just a really amazing moment in our world to connect with people again and to get deeper. And one of the things about Southern California is there's a lot of fake motherfuckers out here, dude. And they put on this beautiful surface personality where you don't really get that real with them. And this shook a lot of people. And personally, there's been a lot of people that I have dropped off the map with for good reason. And there's been other people that have ramped up, and we are more connected than ever because of these moments, you know? So I think it's been really good for a lot of people, and it's either looking at it half full or half empty, but that's up to you.
Hell yeah, man. Again, such a great, inspirational moment there from you. Like, I think everybody agrees that this year has been so rough, and we are coming to the end of it, which is pretty crazy. We're starting to go into the next year, and I remember last year, and, at this time, I was thinking that I wanted to accomplish so much and do all these things and try and do a bunch. And you know what? I did get to do a lot of it. However, there was a lot of setbacks and whatnot, and that's not up to me. Like, that was completely, around what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's out of our control. When let's see. So March 16th was the day that my work had said, all right, so we're going to furlough you guys. I'm a delivery driver for a local coffee company here. And, which just got to the point where it was so slow that there was really no need to have 2-3 delivery drivers. And so they furloughed me, and I'm like, man, like, this is going to fucking blow, but I had just gotten the okay from my work to take 3 weeks off to go to France. And usually when I take international trips, I try to do a month at minimum. But this is the first full-time job that I've worked in a very, very long time. Usually I bounce around and do a bunch of random gigs, like part-time stuff here and there, and I'll save up a grip of money, and then I'll take 6 months off and I'll blow all that money. And then I'll come back, find some more gigs, do some more saving. And it's just like a stack up savings, and then go spend all that savings on beautiful life experiences. So when March hit and I'm like furloughed, and then we had the lockdown, and then international travel got shut down, and I'm communicating with Thomas in France, and he's like, dude, it's fucking crazy over here. Like, they have drones with cameras and microphones, and like, if you go outside your house, the police will find you and they'll ask you to show your paperwork, because you had to prove your paperwork in France. From what I understand, if you were outside, you had to have a piece of paper that said you were like going to the pharmacy to get medication for a family member. Like, it was like crazy strict over there. And I kept thinking like, nah, this is going to blow over. It'll be fine. Fise is still going to happen. And then Fise canceled all their events. And I was like, oh, dude, what the fuck? And one of the companies, Unicorn, who they were super grateful. I'm very grateful to them and honored that they even gave a shit. But after that first thong run, the next year they flew me out there, and they were going to fly me out probably each year to go do like side contests and side jams and events through them. And when they were like, we have to cancel the whole thing, I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like, I just took this off of work, and you wanted to make it personal, but it's not just you. It's the whole entire world is going through this stuff. So you have to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, because if you're not looking for light, then get the fuck out of my way, because I'm trying to find that beam.
Been really unfortunate this year, but we lost so many contests. Like, when you really think about it, what was the biggest BMX contest we were able to hold this year? I think it might have been the Fise, where people would send in footage of themselves. And that was such a great workaround, right? And then we also saw the Battle of Hastings, like street contests with all the different companies and whatnot. Another great way to get people involved. But I know that I was really upset to hear that Swamp Fest wasn't going to be possible, and that was an obvious. Like the second that people started asking Trey, I'm like, why are you even asking? It's going to be canceled. Like this is out of his control.
And that and I had a group of friends that were like, all right, this is the year we go. Thomas was going to come. A bunch of French people were like, all right, we're going to Swamp Fest this year. There's no question about it. We were all ready, and like, yeah, man, crazy.
Yeah, he actually just posted the Mike Escamilla rail loop on his Instagram, and I guess that they got that for Swamp Fest this year. And I've known about that since like this time last year. I had Mike Escamilla on, and we talked about it, and then afterwards he had told me that they had came and grabbed the rail and whatnot, and that they were gonna set that up. I'm like, that is wild.
The actual rail?
I don't know if it's the same one or if it was the
just like a replica or something.
Yeah, it must be a replica, because I'm like, that thing is nuts. I don't know why you would want to even try it. Like with Mike's footage and hearing the backstory on it, like that was the hardest thing he has ever done on a bike, and that is one of the greatest to ever do it. Saying that,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm wondering how that's going to go. Once they get that thing up and running, I'm like, are we going to start seeing people go around this thing like easily, or is it going to be one of those things that one guy gets it out of 200 that try?
I hope guy out of 200, because that just makes it that much better.
Yeah, I guarantee it'll be like 10 people that'll try it. And like after the first, there'll be like 200 people that sign up to try it. And then after they see one guy get upside down and fall to the bottom with his ribs, they're all backing out. I know it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's gnarly.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyways, we've talked a little bit about some of the brands you're riding for, and one last one that I love so much, and I think everybody has a love for, is Profile Racing. Profile is known for their attention to detail and to, making great quality products. And something that I'm going to point out right away is that I love that Profile offers so many different colors and color combinations, everything that they do, right? You can literally customize your hubs down to the fucking driver and the bolts that go into it, which is incredible. And like I was saying with the colors, most brands only come out with 2 or 3 different colors, and it always includes black and then maybe 2 different colors, right? Profile has constantly, for the past, however long, offered over 8 colors typically.
Yeah, that's actually, it's something that I didn't know you could mix and match, to be totally honest with you. I saw one of their recent story posts that someone had like a mini hub with the cone spacers were gold or something, and the hub itself was blue. And I was like, you can do that? What? I didn't know that was an option. Like, damn, this is so badass. So I think maybe in the future, it'd be really fun to have some wild color scheme going on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So how did you first get hooked up with Profile? Because that is a big name in the BMX industry.
Dude, so I have ridden Profile hubs since I was 16. And I still have my Profile Gold minis that I had when I was 16. And Matt Copeland came to town. Oh, geez. I think it's probably been like 3 or 4 years now. Gosh, yeah, I just found Roxy, so I hadn't had her very long, but I got the Profile. I'm not sure if you can see this very well, but I have the Profile Imperial tattoo.
Whoa, that's wild.
On my knee, and that was just like, that was my first ever BMX tattoo. The same guy that did Roxy's nose print did that for me. Kind of funny. I got my first BMX tattoo the same day that I saw DMX for the first time too, so that was kind of sweet. But I had this Imperial sprocket on my knee, and I got to ride with Copeland at Area 43, Dave White's old backyard compound. And Copeland is just, man, I never knew him personally until that session. And he was just such a real dude, not cool guying anybody. And I just always kind of kept in touch with him. And it just kind of came to the point where I was like, hey, man, I've been running your guys' hubs for essentially my whole entire existence in BMX. I'm not saying this to like get anywhere, but I just recently tattooed your sprocket on my knee, and like, you know, he saw it and all this stuff. And I was like, is there any way I could be a part of the team? And, you know, he being the businessman that he is, he was like, you know, how things are going is like, we're all pretty much like set on like team budgets and trip budgets and all this stuff for this year. But like, what do you need? Do you need anything? And I said, I don't need anything. Like, I really don't. And he's like, well, what do you want? If you could have something, like, what do you want? And I was like, I'd love some hubs, you know? And he's like, all right, let me send you out some hubs, and we'll just see how it goes. Let's just keep in contact for the next 6 months. And like, let's see how it goes. And I don't press anything. He's not pressuring me. And then just recently, a couple weeks ago, we have a photographer who is connected with Copeland and with Napo up in Huntington Beach. And they came down and shot some photos of Michael and I riding down here. And that's where it started to be like, whoa, Copeland's actually pretty stoked on me being on this brand. And then he started posting more of my stuff on the profile Instagram. And I'm like, damn, dude, this feels good. Like, I thought he was just doing the homie hookup on the side, like not going to make it anything announcement wise or any of that stuff. And he's just been so real to me. He messages me all the time. I message him. I send him clips. He gives me feedback. He's always someone, if you look at everyone's clips that he posts on and that he comments on, he will always give you a very authentic comment. And I really respect him for that. He's not someone that's just giving you the same emojis over and over and over with everyone else's posts. He gives you very specific details. So it's interesting to have you mention that profile is very specific in their details, but he is also extremely specific in the way that he interacts with the people that he likes. And for me to battle with my confidence is very high at some points, and then my confidence is very low at other points, he always knows how to kind of balance that out, at least for me. Because, you know, we shot some photos, and one of the photos I was like, oh, man, this is, it's a great photo, but there's like this little thing and this little thing. And he's like, dude, stop. It is fucking amazing. Who gives a shit? Like, that's one of the things that sets it aside, is that uniqueness, is this thing, you know? And he is like, don't ever doubt yourself, man. He's like, you're one of the people that I love to watch, you know? And so that makes me feel really connected on a great way, in the sense of, I don't really know him all that well, but he spends the time and energy to really give you a true and honest answer. And I'm just honored to be a part of that team. Profile is such a big name in BMX. And like I said, when I got that terrible one bought for me from my mom for my birthday, and then had Dave build it up at the bike shop, that was one of the things, was I had just recently bought a gold mini hub set. And so they laced it all together, and like, I still have those hubs, dude. Like, I still have those, and I'm never going to get rid of them. They're going to die with me. John Dodd at an old bike shop back when I was really young, he had Chris King hubs that he made into salt and pepper shakers. And I thought that was just such a beautiful thing to continue a life of a hub, was to make it something that you could use on a daily basis. And so that's something that I might do in the future, is take my old hubs and turn them into salt and pepper shakers, or who knows, something else, you know. But that was just such a beautiful way to keep it alive. And Copeland, you know, anytime I'm in this zone where like, hey, I have this opportunity to do this, but like, I'm going to get like a new part, like this new part, I'm going to get a new frame. You know, if I had, he's like, say no more. Do you need new hubs? Like, he'll just send me stuff. Like, he is such the man. And thank you, Matt Copeland. You are incredible.
Hell yeah, dude. Anyways, like, Profile is just so rad. I've had a set of their Elite hubs for probably 6 years now running. And
wow.
I run 4 pegs, and you're not supposed to do that with Elite hubs. They're racing hubs. I ran 4 pegs and was doing handrails, doing big gap to grinds, all this crazy shit on these hubs with the aluminum axles for like 4 years, and then finally I broke an axle, and then I replaced it, and now it's fine. Like, I've broken a couple bolts, but that's gonna happen over the years, and it's crazy to see how well these hubs are running. I haven't changed the bearings, I haven't done any of that. I don't even think I've had to switch out the springs and pawls. These things go. Like, they go forever.
They're incredible quality, and there's no denying that. And that is why they've stuck around as long as they've had, because they make an incredible product.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, and it's really cool that, Matt has been so cool with you, becoming part of the team and whatnot, and that he really gave you that opportunity, right? Like, that's super cool. It's really nice to see when companies don't just go for whatever is the norm, right? Like I was saying, your riding is a breath of fresh air in 2020, because my personal opinion is that we see so many video parts that are so comparable, where you could literally take a clip of someone else, and if you didn't see their face, you could throw it in someone else's edit, and dude, it would take a couple people to figure it out. With you, there's none of that. Your riding is so different. The vibes with your videos are so different. And I think that's exactly what we need. And I'm happy to hear that other companies agree.
I really appreciate you saying that. And, if you'd have told me at 20 years old to just stick with it and keep doing what I'm doing and keep the same kind of vibes that I have, and Profile's gonna, I'm gonna be connected with Profile, I'm gonna be connected with GT, I'm gonna be connected with BoneDeth. Like, if you would have told me that, I would have told you you're full of shit. And I never wanted to ride for a paycheck. I battle with, like, man, it'd be so great to make money through BMX, but I don't. People may think it's like a different thing, because maybe the online perception is different, but I don't make money because of BMX. I don't get a check from GT. I don't get a check from Profile. Like, none of that stuff. These guys make it honest and keep their riders rolling with their parts and with their frames. But, like, I think when you start making money from BMX, from something that you started to do that was fun, it becomes a job. And I never really wanted it to be a job. And so I still battle with it. I'm still like, man, like, I wish I was making money on BMX, but it would change the way that I session. It would make it to where, like, you got to get this clip right now. You got to go out and get these, like, awesome edits, like, hurry up and do it. And it doesn't have that pressure. And so to have companies that have your back, that are as big as these companies are, it means the world to me to be involved with them.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. Like you were saying, when you start making money at it, it becomes a job. And, a good example of that was my dad. He grew up always wanting to be a tattoo artist, right? He wanted to do something with art, because from, when he first picked up a pencil, he, basically just knew. And he made it. He has his own shop now. He has all this stuff, and he's an incredible tattoo artist. I'll have to send you some of his work that's on me afterwards. But
yeah, please do.
It is one of those things that, like, it can be a job at certain points, but it's enjoyable at the, like, he thinks about how he could have ended up working in some shitty office job. And for me, that's something that I will never let happen. Like, if I always just scrape by, but I have a smile on my face, I'm fucking stoked. Like, I'll be happier than anyone I know,
Absolutely. That was something I came to conclusion with a long time ago as well, is like, look, I'm going to probably work in the service industry until I can't work anymore. Who knows what age that is? I can't think about retirement at a specific age of 65, because as long as I'm just doing this life, I'm not going to have a bunch of savings. So I need to make sure I have more smiles on my face than money in the bank. And that's how it's been.
Hell yeah, dude. That's so great. I really like to hear that. I love to hear when people, are able to, work through something that they don't really enjoy just to stick around in something that they do enjoy, if that makes sense. And I think that's kind of the life for a lot of pros, right? Like, through BMX, you can see that the people that they were pros when you started aren't pros anymore.
Yeah. And that's, I forget how he worded it, but I want to say it was Mike Saavedra that just recently posted something, and his caption was so great. And I wanted to find it for this to be able to give him credit word for word, but I'm sorry, I'll probably butcher it, but it essentially said, like, people, you don't stop riding BMX because you're old. You stopped like enjoying BMX and you made an excuse to stop riding. So all the people that, like, I get people that I grew up with who went to school with who are like, Macy, you're still riding? Like, God, I wish I was still riding. And I'm like, why aren't you? You lost your love for it. I never lost my love for it. Mike Saavedra never lost his love for it. Gary Young never lost his love for it. Brian Kaczynski never lost his love for it. These are guys who, this is what they need to do in order to feel fulfilled as a human being. And so you're going to do whatever it takes. And the older you get, which I wish someone would have jumped on me when I was younger, but you got to take care of your body. You got to slow down with the sugar intake. You got to ramp up the healthy foods. You got to ramp up the yoga, ramp up the stretching, ramp up the foam rolling. Like, there are always things to do to create a more stable environment and longevity for your body with what we put ourselves through.
Which in turn means that you get to enjoy it for that much longer, right? Yeah,
exactly.
It's very important. Definitely something that, it's not just you saying it. It's multiple people that have come on this show, multiple riders who, are considered older, that's how they do it, man. Like, look at Nyquist. That dude throws down, and he is just as good as he was 20 years ago. And how does he do it? Because he's healthy. He lives a life like that just so that he can ride.
Yep. And he has Fart Fridays. That dude is such a child. He keeps his child spirit so alive. You can learn so much from people that are like him.
Yeah, I totally forgot about his Fart Fridays. They're so good.
Yeah, dude. So here, let me grab one thing about like the healthy stuff that I want to show real quick.
Absolutely.
So this is something called an acupressure mat pad, however you want to spin it. I bought this. I'll show you the brand, the one that I bought. Just unfortunately, it's like an Amazon thing. I don't want to give like the Amazon and all that stuff, but this thing is amazing. It's just like a little pad here. I'll try to get close to the camera so you can really see what these look like. So I have a massage therapy background. I went to massage school up in Arcata, California, so Humboldt County, and I learned so much about the body doing that. And one of the things I learned is that you are not your body's tension. You can trick your body by tricking your mind and tricking your muscles in order to help you perform better. And what this thing does, this was $20, and you get this, and you get like a smaller one that's probably about like this size. It's more for like a travel pillow. I use it every day for my delivery job. I put it on my back in the car seat, and it's incredible. So what these do is there are, I don't know how many of these little things there are, but there's probably hundreds of them, and they have these tiny, sharp little points. And what these do is, it's called acupressure, not acupuncture, because we're not going to puncture the skin. Acupuncture are the needles that physically penetrate. This is just going to cause a little bit of pressure. But since these are little discs and they are spaced out evenly, the sharpness of these things, if it was by itself, would definitely hurt you and probably puncture. But since they're so evenly spaced out, when you put force on this, you get these tiny little pinpricks, and you're getting so many of them at a time that your mind cannot focus on all of them. And so what that does is, if you have like a muscle that is having more of like a spasm action, that muscle is very tight and contracted. What that actually is your nerves sending signal to the muscle saying that it is needing to hold tight because it is afraid, it's in danger, and so it needs to contract. When you have these little acupressure, look at me fumbling my words. When you have these things on your skin, it sends so many different signals to your nervous system that it actually helps to calm down the muscle fibers, so where they're not overactivating, being overly contracted. And I use this thing every single day, multiple times a day. It is insanely good to stand on. It is insanely good to lay on. If there's one thing that people can take away from this in order to have a more longevity with their riding, get these acupressure pads, get a foam roller, start stretching more, and investigate when you have stiffness and soreness in your body, because it will help you ride better and for longer.
Yeah, I don't think you could have said it any better, man. And to be honest with you, I've had a super sore back the last little while, and I think a lot of it comes from years of lugging around, like, a ridiculous amount of camera equipment and whatnot, and
Totally.
Also posture. It's something that I'm trying to watch nowadays, and I will definitely be picking up one of those, and that is something that I need to start looking into. I know that my body isn't the same as when I was 19 doing, roof drops and whatnot. It's not the same anymore, and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, it helps. It helps so much. Like, I'm a little bit of a freak with things like that. Like, I've got this is a foot massager. It's a piece of wood. You just like roll it on your feet, and it's so incredible with how this feels and how it can just make your feet feel great. This is also a lacrosse ball. So this is something that is actually a sport. We didn't have lacrosse when I was going to high school, but this is like, it's like a racket ball that's very hard. This thing, you cannot squish it. This lives by the side of my bed. I keep one in my backpack almost all times. This is so amazing for rolling out your glutes, which are your butt muscles, for your back, for your feet even. You can even hold it in your hand and kind of roll it around like this. It's really good for your thumbs and all that. And then everyone's jumping on board with the massage guns, and so these are things that you got to invest in if you want to keep riding. Bottom line, invest in your health,
Yeah, definitely. Your health is super important, especially when it comes to riding. And, I think everybody has had those days where, you might have tweaked your ankle or something and it just doesn't feel right. And obviously, you suffer because of it. You can't ride the same way. Even having a sore back will throw you off. Like, just minuscule stuff like that can completely change your attitude and how you ride that day. So, yeah, like you were saying, get on it. Get out there, pick up that stuff, because it is very important to have longevity within BMX.
Yeah, and one of the easiest things that doesn't cost you any more money that you can do is take cold showers at the end of your hot shower. That was something that I started doing years ago, and just recently I ended up buying a very large, like, Rubbermaid container that I can submerge my whole body in, and I leave it outside of my place. Because in San Diego right now, it's a little cold at night, and so it's like an ice bath, but you don't need to go buy the ice every single time because that shit can get expensive. But it's cold enough to where I do that. I did it today, actually, before we got on this video call. I went and rode my bike in the morning for about 2.5 hours, and then I come home, and first thing I do is I strip my clothes off, I put on my little shorts, and I go sit in my cold water tub, and I go for a little over 3 minutes until I start shivering. And you will find the areas of your body that have discomfort, they love that cold. It's like putting an ice pack on an injured leg or on an injured elbow. They love it. And what that does is it helps to slow down your blood flow. Your blood goes back into your heart. It gets recirculated, and it helps to send white blood cells out to areas that have more inflammation. So it helps to send out recovery white blood cells. And then once you get out of the cold, you can go into a nice hot shower. And that contrast of that, it's called contrast therapy, hot and cold. It is extremely beneficial. The unbelievable amount of fluid flow and blood circulation that you get from that is so perfect for healing any. I mean, we have inflammation after you ride every single time. There is not one single bike rider that I know that can go ride and come home and say that they don't feel a little sore. And so start doing cold rinses at the end of your hot shower, or, maybe do a cold rinse at the very beginning and then finish with the hot, however you want to do it. But just start incorporating those things, because it really changes.
Absolutely. And to go off of what you were saying with the container and the kind of ice bath, Mike Escamilla
Yeah.
actually had a freezer out on his deck at his last house, and he would literally just leave that thing closed, and it was full of water, full of everything, for ice and whatnot. He would just, keep it closed, and then at the end of the day, open it up and jump right in. And that is wild.
Yep.
Like, to think that he literally would sit there and like break apart the ice so that he can get to the water and then jump in.
Yeah. And that's amazing. I don't live I feel like he might have a little more of a luxury style life to be able to have that accommodation. I live in a tiny ass apartment, and so I don't even have a bathtub. Like, I have a standing shower. And so I had to figure out, like, damn, what is the best way I can do this? I follow a lot of fitness people on social media, and I see them having their like perfect custom little ice baths, and I'm like, oh my God, that they spent hundreds of dollars on that. Like, I don't have that kind of money to do that, but I have a small amount of money to do it. And so, dude, I went to Home Depot and just chatted up one of the workers there and was like, I'm looking for this thing that I can submerge myself in. And I realized that to do it perfectly would probably cost me about $35 every time to get the amount of ice that I need in order to keep it as cold as you need. But realistically, as long as you have the water that's just colder than your body's temperature, you're going to get a benefit from it. So it doesn't have to be as extreme as Escamilla breaking the ice to get in, which, trust me, if you can do that, do it, because that's the fucking top right there. But if you can't do that, as long as that water is colder than your internal temperature, you're going to get benefit from it. I mean, people even just get like a towel damp and wrap the towel around their body. And just that little bit after 90 seconds of it changes your body's chemistry, and it's going to be beneficial. So one of these days I'll hit up Mike Escamilla and see if I can go jump in his ice bath, because that'd be amazing.
That would be so rad, actually. But have you actually looked into cryotherapy at all? Have you seen anything about that?
Yes, I have. I started to reach out to one of the cryotherapy spots here. I was doing like little email things like, hey, I'm an athlete, blah, blah, blah. I was wondering if you guys have any affiliate programs or stuff like that. And I haven't done it yet. They actually kind of dropped the ball on getting back to me, but whatever, it is what it is. And that's something that I'm glad you mentioned it, because I kind of put it off my mind, because now that I have this little like cold tub, I feel like I'm achieving as much as I can to the level that I can. But you're totally right. Cryotherapy is amazing. And if you have the means to do it, investigate it, because you can spend, 2 minutes in that and get unbelievable benefits that would take you maybe weeks to get with cold tub therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't tried it yet, but I have a friend who did, and she loved it. She thought it was great, and it's definitely something that I've looked into, and I'm going to try it at some point. It's just that I don't need it necessarily at the moment, but I guarantee it'll, there'll come a time where it'll be perfect.
You said what? You're like 24, you said?
Yep, 24.
Dude, I was still invincible when I was 24. I wasn't feeling shit when I was 24. So one of these days, it'll, maybe when you get towards the 30 mark, you'll be like, I think I'm going to go cryotherapy, because you might start feeling it.
Yeah, I hope by then it's a little bit, easier to access, because even right now, finding a place, at least in Ontario, I mean, you're probably best going into Toronto, that kind of area. They've probably got lots there, but yeah.
Dude, I totally forgot where you were. If you're in that spot, just go dig a little hole for yourself in the snow and just go chill in the snow. There's your cryotherapy. Fuck spending money on that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I could just get a ice bath or something and just leave it outside, especially right now. It's freezing out there. So,
dude, I highly recommend it. The only thing that I strongly suggest that you do, work up your internal temperature as much as you possibly can. So maybe do like 100 squats, 50 push-ups, maybe go run in place, or like whatever you need to do to get a sweat going like crazy, because it's going to be traumatic the first time that you do it. It is going to be very hard. And that is actually one of the best challenges, is because it challenges your psyche. You scare yourself. When you have a comfort around you, you are complacent and there's no stress. Well, I hate to break it to people, but a lot of things need a little bit of stress in order to adapt and to evolve. And so one of the things about these cold therapies is it gets you to the conversations that you have in your mind of, oh my God, it's too cold, I need to stop, I should get out now. And you just take another deep breath and stay 5 more seconds. Take another deep breath and stay 5 more seconds. Just keep yourself there until you physically can't do it. I make sure to get to myself to a point, I want to get out the moment I feel it. Like I put my toes in and I'm like, oh God, here we go. But you just need to go through that little bit of stress in order to feel the benefits. And I promise you, if you go through it, you will be more of a hardened mind and more of a hardened exterior than you realize that you were capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the summer, I actually had a really bad ankle injury. And what I had done was just taken, one of the buckets that we have outside for gardening and just filled it with 50% ice, 50% water. And dude, doing that with like 20 minutes in, 20 minutes out, just keep doing that. Oh my God. I could not believe how well it worked. I literally went from not being able to put any pressure on it for the first 3 days and just doing that to being able to ride again within 2 weeks, which was like mind-blowing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And also the fact that you did 20 minutes on and off is incredible. That's more fucking power to you. Definitely, people, if you're listening, don't get stuck on a time frame because you'll start judging yourself. But if you can just do the most amount of time on and the most amount of time off, that is like the best, because if you can go between hot and cold as much as possible for as long as possible, that's amazing. But dude, you doing 20 minutes on and off, that's unreal. That's like, congratulations. That's like, you should definitely start doing full body submersion ice baths, because you already got the skills for it. Like, you're already tough enough.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, the first couple of minutes, like, every day I would dread it. And then, you just put it in there and just let it go. And I found the best thing to do was like literally just plop down. I would be in here like writing stuff for scripts, and I would just focus solely on what I was doing, and I would set a timer on my phone. And I found that helps so much, because I don't need to look up and see when I'm done. It'll tell me, right? And like, as long as I stay focused with this, it's not going to bother me.
You just zone out and let it go. And when you hear that timer, you're like, oh, thank God. And then you jump out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it honestly, like I was saying, it did so much. It was incredible to see how well it worked. And I've tried to tell people, that they've got to try it. And I'm someone that I cannot deal with cold water. I absolutely hate cold showers. I hate jumping into just the temperature change is so much for me. But doing that, it helped immensely. Like, if you have an ankle injury, just try it.
It'll take that little bit of education and knowledge that you learned from the ice baths, even the ankle ice baths. It'll take that, and you'll be able to be in a very cold environment. Like, I mean, dude, you're in Canada in the winter right now. Like, holy shit. I'm in like a sleeveless shirt in my apartment, like, chilling. You're freezing your ass off probably up where you are, but you can start to enjoy colder weather in a different aspect, because you'll go out and ride, you'll get warm, and you'll be seeing your breath and feeling warm and all this stuff. And then you'll just be like, yeah, it's cold, but it actually kind of feels good. You start to build a very intimate relationship with temperature. And that's probably something that a lot of people haven't really tried to cultivate in their life. They are always trying to put on more layers and to warm up, or if it's too hot, to take off layers. Like, there are so many benefits to temperature fluctuations within our body and what we can do to create a better working organism. So hats off to you, man. That's rad.
Yeah, thank you. Like you were saying there with like the different temperatures and whatnot, a buddy of mine has a bowl in his barn, and it's not heated. There's no insulation. There's none of that. It's metal walls, and then just this wicked, like pool style wooden bowl in his barn. And I'm going to be going there in the next couple weeks again. And it's just one of those things that, the first 10 minutes that you're there, it sucks. Like, you're wearing a jacket, you've got all your gear on, and you're just pumping around trying to warm up. But after a couple runs, man, it's easy. Like you're down to a t-shirt in,
Yeah.
negative weather technically because outside is freezing, but as long as the wind isn't
So
coming in,
crazy.
you're good.
That's
Yeah.
so crazy. That's amazing. I miss that's one thing. I'm super grateful to be living in San Diego and have the BMX scene here that is here. But dude, I miss clouds. I miss cold weather. I miss forests. I miss trees. Like where I'm from in Redding, Cottonwood area, it would maybe barely snow like once every 3 or 4 years. Like 7 inches of snow, maybe 3 of it would stick. Everyone would call in, the schools would be canceled, snow day, and all that kind of stuff. But living here, I really miss temperate climates where you get exposure to all seasons. And so this season, winter season, I'm going to take a trip and I'm going to go somewhere that is so freaking cold. I may not even bring my bike. I just want to be like, I just want to go maybe like Michigan or some shit in the middle of the winter. Like I want to be in an area that is so drastically different from where I am right now because it's 300 degrees of sunshine down here,
Yeah, I highly recommend it, man. Check it out. I hate winter. I do. I hate it. But at the end of the day, I still love that I'm in Canada and that this is part of what I'm so lucky to have, right? Like I know so many people through doing this show and just, being able to do stuff on the internet that have never seen snow or have never had the opportunity to, really like, I guess, experience it. And that's something they always want. And for me, it's like,
Yeah.
I can't just look at it as a negative. I got to think about it as a positive and that I'm so lucky that I get to experience it.
That's awesome. And, ultimately, nothing fantastic and worth having should come easy. Some things do come easy, but then you'll realize that you had to earn it for maybe years in order to get there. So these perfect Southern California days where it's hot and everyone's wearing t-shirts and shorts, like, yeah, it looks incredible, but it creates this sissy environment where you go ride the Northwest in like the winter and you're frozen and you don't appreciate it. But to be in an area that gets blanketed with snow, I would imagine you're probably shoveling snow to maybe get into a walkway or to like drive your car or like using the ice scrapes on your windshield and stuff. There's something magical about going through stress and going through shitty environments and shitty moments, because I bet you in the summertime, your area is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You have to go through that shit in order to have it be beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely, what I love is that, like, at least in Ontario, it's so weird where the temperature will change drastically. Like, we have seen it jump from -10 to +20 degrees Celsius in like 24 hours. Like,
That's
it will
so wild.
blow you away, dude. It's so strange.
That's so
like,
wild.
There's literally days where I will go out and ride in a t-shirt and shorts, and then the next day, I'm not leaving my house because there's a bunch of snow.
That's so crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think the next time that we'll get that is probably in the spring, because it's already December. It's getting pretty cold here. We don't have much snow at the moment, though. But in the spring, I guarantee
wow.
it'll happen.
Yeah, that's wild. That's so cool. I have yet to be... So that's on the eastern side of Canada, right?
We're kind of like, I guess would be more east, but middle-ish. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I guess we're pretty close to Buffalo.
Ah, okay. Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I've only been in Canada once, and it was on the West Coast. But, dude, Canada is incredible.
Yeah,
Everyone that I have met in Canada is always amazing.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's such a great place to be. I honestly feel so lucky. Like, when you really look at, the way that life is created and whatnot, it's so wild to think that I was literally won the lottery in my mind of places to grow up and live, right? Like, first of
Yeah.
all, I was born. That's already crazy enough. But then to be born in Canada is insane. But then to be born in Ontario, where, like, you have so many amazing sites. Like, you can go and check out, the falls and whatnot at Niagara, or you can go way up north and check out some of the insane forests and whatnot. Like, we get to
Yeah.
experience so much here. But yeah, I
That's
just feel
awesome.
so lucky. Like I could have been born anywhere, but to be born here is pretty rad.
That's great. It's great to hear, man.
Fuck yeah. How you doing over there, Maddie?
I'm good.
Cool, man. We are just about to pass 3 hours on the phone. I don't know if it's felt like 3 hours, but
Wow, it definitely has not felt like 3 hours.
fuck yeah. So what we'll do now is I'll ask you just a couple more questions, and then we'll end it off here
Okay.
if that's cool. I'm sure
Yeah.
that once I edit out some of the stuff with the video chatting kind of breaking up there, it'll, get down quite a bit. But yeah, so let's see here. I actually watched this again today, and this was the recreating tricks from 30 years ago. And this was kind of something that you had come up with, and you guys had went out and made a video on our BMX, and this was so cool, man. I love this idea. I think, it really shows that when we look back at the history from 30 years ago, BMX was still rad, and people were still doing stuff that is hard to do today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was a really interesting concept that Fudger kind of spun off of the idea that I had. So I've the people that have been close to me for the last probably 10 years, I've kind of bounced around with this idea of wanting to do an ABD edit. And I want to do an ABD edit of some of the moves that Ruben did, some of the moves that Taj did. I mean, I'm talking like the iconic ones that will probably most likely never be done ever again. I would need like a pretty decent travel budget. I would need like a really solid couple dudes that have, to come with me to film all these things. And I would need to be in pristine shape to do this. But I have this thought of there is so much weird shit talking that goes on with people that do ABD stuff, the already been done moves. Like I've never been someone buddy for that. I think that if you really love the way that Taj rode, how incredible would it be to go do that exact same move and follow in his like tire path and see what he felt like when he pulled the trick, or maybe you don't pull the trick because it's too hard for you, but just to put yourself back in that mindset and go in those same motions that these icons that you look up to did. I think that would be such a great way to pay homage to them and to show my honor and my respect to the quality of their bike riding. And so it's kind of a fantasy idea. Who knows if it'll ever get done? But I was sharing this with Fudger, and Fudger was like, actually, I think I have a pretty good idea. There's a lot of classic San Diego spots that have been around for like 30 plus years. How would you feel about kind of recreating some of that stuff? And I'm like, that's not a bad idea at all, because it creates a little more reality with where my fantasy ABD edit was kind of coming from, to where he's been here since the Dirt Bros, and he's been a part of all of this stuff. So he has like unbelievable history and connections and knows all the spots. And he instantly started dropping us pins and showing us places that are still in existence to today. And I give him so much credit for that, because that was a lot of fun doing that fucking, I forgot the guy's name, but doing the hop up to both feet on the rail, trying to like rail walk and do that. That was like, we all didn't think it was going to be possible. And then that I figured it out was like, what? Like, and it just still was so fun, because these guys did that 30 years ago. And like to think about what they were going through on the machines that they had on their crazy weighted, like 40, 50 pound bikes. And they're doing this shit. Unreal, man. It was awesome to make that edit.
I actually really like that idea of doing an ABD edit. I think that would be really interesting, actually. And what I love about it is the fact
I do too.
Yeah, I love that, we do get so many people that say like, no, you shouldn't do any tricks that have already been done. You can't submit that, quote unquote, as an actual like clip, which just doesn't make sense to me, right? Like I totally agree with what you're saying about paying homage to the people and whatnot. And something that I really wanted to point out too, this kind of falls in there, but it's kind of a callback from earlier. I feel that because we ride BMX, that we should try and use all of the landscapes and whatnot to our advantage. And one of the things that I hate is when people would call out like landing into grass, anything like that. And I believe personally that like we should try and do everything that we look at because we have the ability to. Skateboarders can't do, a 20 set into a grass hill. It's just not possible for them. So why aren't we trying to do that? Like that's something that we can take on as our own.
And it just goes to show you, we all grew up thinking that life was this certain way, and then we found these bikes and we found these ways to manipulate the environment, either with dirt or with wood, to where we can start doing these fun tricks. But we realized that life isn't this very specific set way that you live, and we started to chip away at a different pathway in life and find our own little groove. So why do we need to have very confining ideas of what BMX is? Because that's the reason why it exists, is we didn't want to be confined in the traditional lifestyle. And so we found another lifestyle in order to have fun. And that's why I agree 100% with what you just said. If there's a grass hill, I want you to do whatever you need to do in order to feel incredible. And if you have to jump down into that grass hill, I want to see that clip. And we should stoke people up to do that kind of stuff. So I 100% agree. We do have vehicles that take us to very amazing points that we can do a lot of stuff on. Thank goodness for having rubber tires and air in those tires that can shock absorb us, and we can jump on almost anything.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just watching the footage here of you doing this. And this is like kind of like the trick spider bite, but instead of you landing with both feet and the bike in between your legs, you're kind of going up and putting the bike off to the side. Has this actually become something that you want to start doing other places as well?
Hell no. That shit was so hard, dude. So if you look at it, like I ride left foot forward, so I traditionally spin to the right. And when I was trying to figure out that move, I kind of wanted to go the same way he was. I'm pretty sure he was right foot forward. I'm not 100% positive, but it just felt better for me to jump and kind of turn to the left and get my right foot down, because my right foot, if I ever do like a fufanu and I don't feel 100% confident when I'm on the rail or on the stall, I put my right foot down on the same area where I'm stalling, and I'm really good at putting my feet down. And so I had to figure out which way I wanted to go up to it. And for some reason, just going the opposite spin just felt better. And so that was something that I had to morph and find and realize that I could do. But man, that was so scary doing that. And like, I don't really want to do it again. I'm glad I did it. But it did open up a whole nother realm of like, wow, I could probably incorporate some old school moves. And if you see someone do a foot jam tail whip on a big ass spot, you're like, wow, that was impressive. But you see someone do that on a spot, you're like, wait, what? It doesn't compute right away. And then it shows just the versatility and the difference that BMX lifestyle creates and BMX moves create. You don't have to do the same shit that everyone else is doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you guys were able to pull that off, because that clip looks so difficult. Like, just trying to figure that out, I can't. That's just me.
It was so funny. And then hearing Fudger be like, whoa, like, I didn't think that was going to get done. And like Gary and DeMarcus were like, what? Like, oh my God. And I was even like, did I just do it? Like, holy shit, that was awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's such a great way to pay homage. And I definitely think you got to get that ABD edit, do it, because
I know.
Yeah, that is something that the BMX world needs to see, I think.
Yeah, it would be great.
Alrighty, so why don't we talk about what you got planned for the future? I think the future is very bright with you, Maty, and I cannot wait to see, what you got coming up. So, what do you have planned? Are we going to see a new video part at some point? Are we going to see more music from you? Are we going to see photography?
Yeah, man, you're going to see all of it, Been chipping away at a edit with Fudger for quite a few years now. I got injured about halfway through, about a year and a half ago. I had a pretty decent fall and fucked up my shoulder. So that was kind of a bit of a setback right there. But as far as like music goes and stuff, I'm always doing stuff with music. I think it's something that music is a part of my blood, and I actually am doing. Well, yeah, we can talk about this. So I have a friend who also rides BMX, and he asked me to help him do some lyrics for a song to deal with. It's called TSW, topical steroid withdrawal. And it's a world that I had no idea about. So these are, people that get prescribed to do topical ointments, either, I mean, I don't know specifically where, but most likely all over their body with like acne or something like that. And the steroids that are in these creams, they become addicted to them. And it really changes their body's chemistry, and they start having allergic reactions, like crazy itching. There's a hashtag called RSS. It's a red skin syndrome. So he's been sending me all these links to get me educated on. And I told him, I said, I'm coming from a place of, I don't know any of this stuff. So if I'm gonna give you some lyrics, I don't want to be disrespectful to this community. I need to come from a place of understanding as best as I can. And so I'm working on some lyrics right now for him with that song. That's really good. But dude, I freestyle like every single day. I love doing that stuff. Music is a part of my life. As far as photography, it's definitely slowed down a little bit, but I can't ever turn off that eye. I'm always looking for stuff to shoot photos with. So you absolutely will see more edits coming. I added a S on that. Who knows if it's going to be plural or not, but yeah, you're going to see hopefully more music and hopefully some more photos. Like, I like to keep an eclectic thing about my life. I don't want to just be one way. I like doing all kinds of stuff. So it's good to do as many things as you can.
Definitely. And I feel like most BMX riders are really creative people, especially because BMX kind of demands it, right? Like, you have to be creative in order to ride, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to, your music and whatnot, I really am excited for it. And obviously a new video part, that'd be incredible. I'm really looking forward to that. And when it comes to your photos, man, I love your photography page, and I think that you need to start promoting it more, because I didn't even know that you did shoot photos until yesterday doing research for this.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's I've always loved shooting photos. My dad gave me probably one of the only positive things my dad ever did for me. He gave me his old Canon AE1 from like 78. And I don't know a whole lot about cameras or even photography in general. And I was shooting film years and years and years ago. I traveled the country and was living in Florida, and I would have this camera. And then all of a sudden I was changing lenses one day, and the mirror on the inside of my camera trickled out in like 100 pieces. And I had no idea how that could have happened. Like, obviously I was a little more careless with my shit than I realized, and it broke it. So I took it as a sign that maybe I shouldn't be shooting photos. And that was right around the time that the phone cameras started becoming really nice. So I started shooting phone camera stuff and was like, I don't need to worry about it. But I met someone here in San Diego who could tell that I have an eye for that. And they convinced me to buy just like a basic, Canon body camera. And I started shooting with that. I got like I even forget what it is, like a Canon Rebel, something like T6 or whatever. And then I ended up buying a really nice lens from Fudger, his L series, 70 to 200 millimeter. And he sold me that for really, really cheap. I'm super grateful for him for that. He just saw like what I was shooting on like a stock lens, and he was like, hey, I see you're shooting photos, more like, why don't you try this lens out? I'm trying to sell it, but I'm not asking you to buy it. Just, take it for a couple weeks. And if somebody wants to buy it, just give it back to me, but have some fun with it. And I went out to Arizona on like a little family trip, and I shot this photo of just I think it was like a telephone wire, just something super basic, but it had two wires, and they wrapped on each other. And like the way that they wrapped and coiled together, I was able to zoom in to get just enough of that coil in focus. And I think I was shooting like a 1.8 aperture. And when I saw that photo on my computer, I called Fudger and I said, how much do you want for this lens? I'm going to buy it right now. Like, this is unbelievable. The way that photo brought up emotions and satisfaction in me, I knew that I needed to just fork over the money and take it, you know? And so I still have that lens to this day, and I don't shoot it as much, but don't get me wrong. I'm always looking. It's always there. I'm always thinking about shots, and I love jumping at opportunities to take photos and being around people like Jeff Z and seeing the way he shoots. It's just unbelievable, you know? So photography is always going to be there. It ain't going away.
Yeah, man, that's so rad. I love that you've got a great lens and an okay camera body, because that is, dude, when it comes to like cameras, it's all about the glass, man. Like, a buddy of mine, he's an amazing photographer. I would honestly claim him as the best BMX photographer in Ontario, and that's Chris Johnson, very close friend of mine. He shot all the photos for, like, you know, a bunch of the projects that I've worked on. And with him, man, he's got an old Canon T2i. It's been the same camera that he's had for close to 10 years. But it's all about how you shoot and the knowledge that you have, right? Like, he doesn't have crazy expensive equipment, but he makes it work. And, mad respect to him. And, you know, like anybody that's able to do that, rad.
Yeah,
you know?
that was something that this friend of mine said. You know, I was like, well, I don't have that much money. Like, I can't buy like a really nice camera. And they were like, look, you just need to get the body. You just need to get a basic body, and you need to worry about the lens later. And I had no idea that was the trick. And Wong Tran, like, he's an incredible photographer too. So I started like paying attention more to how he would shoot. And he's got like a really expensive camera, like I don't even know what it is, like a Mark 7D or something like that. Like, so his stuff is unbelievably high quality, you know, and he's got the nice lens to go with the high quality camera body. So when I just got this basic camera and then started shooting on those other lenses, you just see it immediately. You see the quality. And the moment someone was like, hey, you need to start shooting in RAW and in JPEG. And I was like, what? They're like, you're only shooting in JPEG. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So that helped me. And submitting some photos to Brian Castillo for Demolition, he wrote back to me, and, you know, he wasn't rude by any means, but he was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, you shot this trick, and you shot it at like, what was it? I think I shot it at like 400ths of a second. And he was like, so just so you know, in like action sports world, we do about 500 is like the minimum, like the slowest the lens is going to be. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he was like, yeah, and your ISO is here. And I'm like, dude, I had no idea. I was just clicking until it looked good, you know? And so he shed a little bit of light on like where the basic kind of foundation is. And then I've just been able to use that and kind of go from there. So I'm super grateful for him shedding that knowledge with me, you know, sharing that with me, and not just being like, oh, this guy's a jackass, doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
That's so good to hear that he actually spent the time to really explain some of that stuff, right? And I find that for myself, you know, I am not a great photographer by any means. I've definitely had a fair share of some shots that have been really good, but, you know, I'm not like a professional photographer by any means. But yeah, my stuff is more towards video. And even with that, I film BMX stuff. Yeah. I don't film like, you know, movies or anything. But yeah, it's still one of those things that I got to pay attention to that. I got to, you know, really focus on that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so our fan question this week, you know, it was a bunch of people that kind of asked this, and I figured we'd boil it down to one question. How do you walk around with those giant balls, Matty? With some of the footage that you've done, it's incredible.
Oh, man, you just got to make sure you stuff them in a nice, tight banana hammock, you know?
I love it. Oh, man.
That's funny. No, man, you just don't be afraid to be yourself.
Fuck yeah. That's awesome, dude. And, you know, I just want to say a huge thank you for doing this. We have one more question after this, but again, I really appreciate you taking close to 3.5 hours out of your day to do this. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.
Pleasure's all mine.
Awesome. Alrighty. So our last question, and I think, you know, you're the perfect one for this. What's your advice on keeping life fun?
Oh man, just if it doesn't make you giggle and it doesn't evoke a smile on your face, figure out how to do that. Figure out how to get yourself to laugh, figure out how to get yourself to smile, because there are so many things that can bring those emotions out in you. And just please keep trying that stuff, because if you're feeling more down and feeling like you don't really have any purpose or anything, go hang out with someone that is always funny, the dude that's always cracking jokes. Go surround yourself with people that have a better frequency, and I guarantee you'll start seeing your frequency change too.
That's awesome, Maty. I think that's some great advice for everybody out there. And, it's something that I think a lot of people need to listen to, especially right now with everything going on. This past year has been rough, but you know what? I bet you 2021 can't get any worse. So let's fucking hope not,
Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, Maty, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been incredible.
Absolutely, man. It's been so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back at some point. But yeah, to everyone who has, came this far with us, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Awesome. See you guys. Figure out how do you turn this thing off here? Is this how you turn this thing on? I'm not sure. Is it back here? Where's the button for this thing? Oh, there it is.
Oh, man.